have essentially a team of geniuses working for you, because modern AI, the IQ of the very best systems is now reaching 150 IQ. And so in the past, you wouldn't have been able to build a team, a talented team that could compete. Today, you can.
It's a utopian vision, I guess, but there will be those, and you've hinted at this already. AI is itself at genius level right now. It does raise the question, where does that leave people? I mean, whether you're from a corner of Africa or whether you're from a rich Western country, most of us are not geniuses. So
Yeah.
The computers are taking over.
And this is why it's extraordinarily important to learn how to control the computer.
This is CBC Winnipeg. Here are the lineup tones in advance of the CBC Winnipeg weekday morning show. This is CBC Winnipeg. Here are the lineup tones in advance of the CBC Winnipeg weekday morning show.
I mean, the fear is not, as I say, just in Africa, it's everywhere, that this usurping of human power, human potential by artificial intelligence, it will only take a few bad actors to deploy it in ways that could be horrendously destructive.
AI is a very powerful technology. And like we've seen in the past, very powerful tech, think about like nuclear power, can be used for good or bad reasons. But ultimately, nuclear power was probably a net positive for humanity in terms of like a source of energy that's readily accessible and the like. And I suspect that it will be the same in AI. So are there concerns? Absolutely. Are there areas where we need more work, particularly on AI safety and the like? Absolutely. But the amount of work, opportunity, abundance and wealth is actually unlimited when you think about it. There are so many challenges that would reward an entrepreneur solving them in Africa and beyond. So am I worried? No, but I am pragmatic. And the main issue I'm trying to avoid at a personal level is disconnect between certain parts of the developing world and this technology. And because I'm passionate about...
And your book, this book, Leapfrog, you've written, is basically saying Africa can be a success in the AI space without public funding.
Absolutely. I felt a strong moral urgency to communicate that there is a path where unlimited wealth is created all across the world, and in particular in the developing world, without any public funding. Because I'm very realistic. Governments, they're not going to fund like future-looking projects or things that are uncertain. But the private sector could. And in Leapfrog, I essentially explain how you can actually build this successful future of abundance built on the simple principle that intelligence and energy are going to become abundant. You could see it as a threat, but I see it as the best opportunity we have ever seen.
The thoughts of Karim Beguir, co-founder of InstaDeep. Thank you for listening to the interview. If you enjoyed this conversation, you can find many more wherever you get your BBC podcasts, including ones with the Google boss Sundar Pichai, Mustafa Suleyman of Microsoft AI, and Nick Clegg, the former Global Affairs President at Meta. Until the next time, from me, Ed Butler, goodbye.
From the BBC, that was the interview.
Good morning, Manitoba. Happy Friday. I'm Corey Funk, sitting in today for Marcy Marcusa. You're listening to Information Radio here on CBC Radio 1, 89.3 FM, 990 AM, and everywhere on the CBC Manitoba YouTube page. Let's say hello to the crew who will be joining us this Friday. Sierra Sanders is our studio director. She's going to be keeping an eye on the commute. Abby Adeyemi is our studio technician and keeping an eye on weather. And Darren Morash is our YouTube producer. Also with us this morning is Matt Humphrey, who's keeping a look at news headlines. Good morning.
Good morning. A Manitoba Health Advocacy group is calling for a provincial inquest into the deaths of 2 people after they made donations at paid plasma collection centers in Winnipeg. We're expecting the Manitoba Health Coalition to hold a press conference later this morning. The organization says it wants more than just a Health Canada investigation into what happened. We'll hear the latest at 6:30. And big news, many of Canada's brightest music stars will descend on Winnipeg for the Juno Awards next year. The announcement was made last night. It'll be the first time Winnipeg has hosted the Junos since 2014. And of course, Corey, I don't need to tell you the number of talented musicians who are from Winnipeg and to come through Winnipeg all the time.
You know, I think I've been saying it for a while, but it feels like our music scene is having a moment. So I think this is going to be a really great opportunity to show our thriving music scene here, because there's a lot of people punching above their weight here in Winnipeg. It's really exciting to see.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much, Matt.
Back soon.
That's Matt Humphrey here on CBC Radio 1 at the CBC Manitoba News Desk. Coming up, actually, after 7, we're going to have Manitoba's film commissioner, film and music and music as well. She's going to be joining us, Lynn Scarmita, to talk about what it took to get the Junos here and what we can expect in the coming year as Winnipeg plans to host the Junos. Also coming up this next hour, of course, today on the 14th day of the U.S.-Israel war against Iran, are there any signs it could end soon? We're going to ask an expert on military and security issues. Also, coming up just after 6, we've been hearing a lot about whether Manitoba should follow BC's lead and stop changing the clocks twice a year. We're going to speak with a man from Churchill about what he'd like to see happen when it comes to daylight saving, and especially, you know, in a small town that only gets 6 hours of sunlight a day during the dead of winter.
On cue.
I'm Garvey Bailey, in for Tom Power. Ian Tuason's debut film, Undertone, follows a podcaster who starts receiving eerie audio files that bring paranormal activity into her life.
You shouldn't have called out to her. It's what she wants.
He'll be here to talk about the real events behind the story, shooting in his family home, and the bidding war that landed it at A24.
Q, this morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland, and on CBC Listen, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is World Report. Good morning, I'm John Northcott. We begin in Tehran, where thousands of people were on the streets commemorating an annual pro-Palestinian event. People chant, "God is great," as smoke billows out of buildings and strikes continue all around. This is U.S. Central Command reports it has recovered the bodies of 4 of 6 service members of a refueling plane that went down in Iraq yesterday. The region remains on high alert as it comes under unrelenting fire. Megan Williams is in Dubai for us with the latest.
2 foreign nationals were killed and several others injured after a drone crashed into an industrial area in Sohar, Oman, while a second drone came down nearby in an open area without causing injuries. Here in Dubai, debris struck the facade of a skyscraper in Dubai International Financial Center after air defenses intercepted an Iranian drone about 60 stories up early this morning, followed by warnings of missile attacks after. Banks and financial firms in Dubai and Abu Dhabi have sent staff home after Iran warned it would target economic interests linked to the U.S. and Israel, with Bloomberg News Agency telling staff they can leave the region. Experts say the UAE is especially in Iran's line of fire, likely due to close security ties with the United States, its partnership with Israel, and mounting financial pressure on Iranian money flows through the Emirates. Across the Gulf, Bahrain, Kuwait, Oman, Saudi Arabia, and Qatar have all reported missile or drone attacks on energy infrastructure, U.S. bases, and diplomatic sites. After hitting 6 vessels in the past 2 days in the Strait of Hormuz, Iran says ships can still pass through if they coordinate with its navy, effectively claiming control of the world's most critical oil corridor. Megan Williams, CBC News, Dubai.
Prime Minister Mark Carney is now in Norway. His visit comes as Canada stocks up on its defence arsenal. Murray Brewster is travelling with the Prime Minister and has this report.
Prime Minister Mark Carney has arrived in Norway, where he will observe a major NATO exercise. He's also here to meet with Norway's Prime Minister and the Chancellor of Germany. Both countries are backing a bid by German shipbuilder TKMS to sell Canada 12 submarines, a multi-billion-dollar program that has been fast-tracked by the Liberal government. Despite the high stakes, militarily, economically and diplomatically, Carney says he does not expect the submarine bid to be discussed among the three leaders.
The short answer is no, because we're at a phase in that process where the final bids have been submitted.
Both TKMS and the other bidder, South Korea's Hanwha Ocean, handed in their proposals to the federal government on March 2nd. Over the next month, federal officials will be able to ask clarifying questions before bidding is fully closed in early April. Defense expert Michael Byers says neither Germany nor Norway has to mention the word submarines. All they have to do is talk about Allied solidarity, which has been central to the TKMS bid.
My sense is that he's a pretty hard-headed guy, and if he sees an advantage in going with the South Korean company, he'll go with the South Korean company. This is not about sentimentality. This is a rational decision that needs to be made.
The federal government has told both bidders to expect a swift decision, perhaps as early as June. Murray Brewster, CBC News, Oslo.
The Prime Minister isn't the only Ottawa politician traveling today. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre is heading to the U.S. The leader of the official opposition says he'll be fighting for tariff-free access to U.S. markets. For more on this, let's bring in Janice McGregor from our Parliamentary Bureau. So, Janice, Poilievre was criticized during the election for not focusing enough on the Canada-U.S. relationship. Is this about making up for lost time now?
Well, that's really the key question on this trip, John. He's certainly going to try. If Conservatives see themselves as a government in waiting, part of that work is having a network south of the border that can be leveraged on any number of fronts: trade, border security, defense being obvious big ones. While there are a few people in his caucus who maintain contacts in Washington, Poilievre's political career, all his events, his social media as leader, have all been about domestic, usually pocketbook issues. But lately, he has been trying to build a bridge between that economic focus and what's happening beyond Canada's border. One of his MPs, Jamil Javani, called on his personal friendship with Vice President J.D. Vance to get FaceTime at the White House last month. The Conservative leader may be seeking to steer clear of any comparisons with that kind of access by heading to other strategic places on this trip. Detroit, ground zero for cross-border automotive trade. Texas, the heart of the oil patch. And then a keynote speech for business leaders and perhaps also some U.S. media in New York. In a video post on his social media channels, Poilievre said he's leaving the trade negotiations to the federal government. He's not freelancing or going rogue on that here. Prime Minister Mark Carney's aware of his plans for the next few days and, we're told, supportive.
As you say, Janice, Poilievre not going to Washington, going elsewhere. So what issues is he wanting to focus on?
Well, the first two stops, pretty on brand for him. Southwestern Ontario swing seats, where a lot of jobs depend on automotive manufacturing, always a Conservative focus. His stops in Michigan could be seen as advocating for the businesses that support those voters. And he's just written another letter to Carney, repeating what we've heard him argue in the House this week, calling on the Liberal government to reconsider his proposal to create a strategic oil reserve, to scrap laws and regulations that hold back the energy industry, fast-track pipeline approvals, more urgently than ever in the wake of the war in the Persian Gulf. Now, if you want to boost policies for the oil patch, well, Texas is the place to do it.
Janice McGregor in Ottawa. Thanks, Janice.
You're welcome.
Meanwhile, Prime Minister Mark Carney unveils a massive $35 billion package for Canada's Northern Territories. The investment is designed to strengthen the country's military presence in the Arctic and to build critical infrastructure. As the CBC's David Thurton reports, the plan includes a mix of new defense spending and a nation-building road and port project.
We're taking up the Mackenzie Valley Highway at our major projects office. This summer, we will start construction.
That project Prime Minister Mark Carney is talking about would connect remote parts of the Northwest Territories, replacing ice roads with gravel roads. The Grays Bay Port and road is also going to the major projects office. It would connect a deep water Arctic port in Nunavut to the rest of Canada.
It's a weird term, but it's dual use because it's relevant both for the military personnel who come, but also for the community.
But the vast majority of the money being announced, $32 billion will go to direct military investments, upgrading forward operating locations, staging bases for fighter jets in Happy Valley, Goose Bay, Iqaluit, Yellowknife, and Inuvik. David Thurton, CBC News, Ottawa.
Some officials in the north, meanwhile, are expressing frustration. They say Ottawa made the plans for their region without consulting or even informing them. They include Whitehorse Mayor Kirk Cameron.
They just don't spend the kind of time that I think they should be talking to us in advance to have a dialogue that will get us to a place, at a minimum, that we understand where they want to go.
England, the latest country to introduce legislation to ban boiling lobsters alive. As the CBC's Tom Murphy reports, the new rules are forcing Canada's multi-billion-dollar seafood industry to reconsider its next move.
The UK ban comes after a recent review of research that suggests lobsters have the capacity to feel. Ben Sturgeon is a veterinarian and animal rights activist with Crustacean Compassion in the UK.
They actually respond to them very similarly to terrestrial mammals. So these animals not only centrally feel pain, but they actually centrally process the reaction to avoid pain in future.
But Shelley Adamo, professor emeritus at Dalhousie University, doubts that. Her research suggests any flinching you see when a lobster goes in the pot doesn't prove a reaction to pain, rather a reaction to stimuli. She says, consider this, a mosquito has more than twice as many neurons as a lobster.
I'm just not confident it is going to also be investing a big chunk of its neural resources for an emotional experience. In mammals, there are particular circuits in the brain that are important for us having that experience. And there's just no equivalent of them in these other animals.
All of this renewed debate around a boil ban has the lobster industry feeling a little trapped. Chris Viscato is with the Nova Scotia Seafood Alliance.
And really it is highly concerning because, again, what we have is an academic background that says this is not a problem, and yet someone has decided to make a law stating that it is. And that disconnect is really hard to swallow.
So for now, the industry watches with interest. The UK is a relatively small but growing market for Canada's live lobster, but the ban has already spread to Norway, Switzerland, and Australia. Tom Murphy, CBC News, Halifax.
And that is the latest national and international news from World Report. I'm John Northcott. This is CBC News.
Good morning, Manitoba. You're listening to Information Radio here on CBC Radio 1. I'm Corey Funk, sitting in for Marcy Marcusa. Minus 12 right now at the Forks, heading for a high today of minus 8. Coming up this hour on the show, it's the 14th day of the U.S.-Israel war against Iran, which has expanded into a regional conflict. Are there any signs, though, it could end soon? We're going to ask an expert on military and security issues later this hour. Also coming up on the show, we're going to hear about a recent study which found that about 2/3 of the electronics in Canada get replaced even though they might work perfectly or have only minor problems. We're going to talk about the problem of e-waste here in Canada. But first here on the show, we're going to go up to Churchill. And as we talk about daylight saving time, after BC decided to stay with daylight saving, what could that mean for Churchill if Manitoba followed suit? Right now at 6:11 low, let's check in with Matt Humphrey with a look at news headlines.
Good morning. We're waiting on a press conference this morning from the Manitoba Health Coalition following the deaths of 2 people after they made donations at paid plasma collection centers in Winnipeg. It's expected the coalition this morning will encourage the province to ban paying for plasma, and they'll officially call for inquests into the deaths. More at 6:30. And dozens of people in Brandon this week woke up to slashed tires. Brandon police say it happened on Wednesday with at least 72 tire slashings reported. The investigation is ongoing. At the bottom of the hour, we'll hear from one Brandonite who is both frustrated and confused. More at 6:30. 72 incidents of tire slashing reported so far, we have from Brandon Police.
Wow. Thank you very much, Matt.
Back soon.
That's Matt Humphrey at our CBC News desk. 6:12 right now, actually. Let's check in with Abby Adiemi, who's got an eye on the somewhat still wintry forecast ahead.
Yeah, wintry forecast. If you're on the roads today, you'll definitely be playing that game of looking for the lane because the lines have been covered again. The pavements are gone. You'll be seeing more like ice, fresh snow on the ground as you make your commute. Though no warnings are for today, but we're still looking at that sharp provincial divide where we have the south will be seeing a mix of sun and clouds and light snow in some areas, while the northern half still remains gripped in that frigid Arctic air, really wind chills near minus 47 in some regions up north. So we still have that divide. For Winnipeg and the Red River Valley region, we're looking at clear conditions at this time, minus 13. Some clouds will roll in. We do have that slim chance of light snow. Then we warm up to about minus 8 under some breezy conditions from the north later. Across the southern regions, from the Pembina Valley region, the Westland, the Parkland, the Interlake regions, we're seeing temperatures range from minus 11 to minus 19 at this time. Highs would hover between minus 6 and minus 9 in the regions, while up north, as mentioned, those biting chills from the Par all the way towards Churchill. We're seeing temperatures sitting between minus 23 to minus 35 at this time, and highs will only recover between minus 15 and minus 27 today, though the biting wind chill close to minus 47 as you go towards Churchill this morning. Winnipeg, we're hovering around minus 13, minus 14.
Because I need it, I'm looking ahead to next Thursday on the long-term forecast, which is probably going to change. But I see three above as the forecast for next Thursday. So there's maybe warm weather.
Yeah, we're getting close to spring, so it's just that, that hope that spring is about to come and some things about to pop out of the ground.
I think that's the story of March, though, is being like constantly disappointed. Like it should be warmer, but it's just not.
Yeah, it's a month of the morning is sunny, the afternoon is spring, and then winter sweeps in again overnight.
Yeah, I don't like it. Thank you very much, Abby.
You're welcome.
That's Abby Adeyemi keeping an eye on your forecast. Sierra Sanders is our studio director and keeping an eye on the commute. Hello.
Hello, Corey. Not too much going on out there here in this city. Haven't received any calls on the commuter line here early in the show. But a quick look at the highways. The highways east and south of Winnipeg are being reported as partially covered by Manitoba 511, and some even being reported with reduced visibility and covered as well. So you want to keep an eye out for that if you are heading out east of the city or south of the city as well. And then looking out west, Highway 2, areas around Glenborough, Wawanesa, Souris, you're seeing covered highways and reduced visibility. So keep that in mind if you are listening out west there. Number to call today if something does come up on your commute, whether you are here in the city or anywhere else in the province. That number is 204-788-3093.
Well, when it comes to those dark winter days, I think it's fair to say we're out of the thick of it here in Manitoba. That daylight in the evening certainly helps. And now the big question is, do we keep moving the clocks ahead or not? British Columbia is keeping daylight saving, making it permanent. And now some Manitobans are wondering about whether we should follow suit. Premier Wapkanu has said, quote, not right now. But if we eventually do, Joe Stover wants the government to take the far north into account. He lives in Churchill and he joins us now. Good morning.
Good morning. How you doing?
Good. So what do you want to see Manitoba do when it comes to daylight saving time?
Well, the status quo is actually not so bad with the light, a little bit earlier in the winter, and then a little bit later, obviously, in the summertime. But if we were to go one way permanently, then I would hope it is standard time the way that Saskatchewan does it, not permanent daylight savings like BC is going to do right away.
Why standard time?
Well, because if it's permanent daylight saving time, then in the winter, instead of 9 o'clock sunrises, we're going to get 10 a.m. sunrises, actually a few minutes after 10 up this way. So, you're going to be waking up in pitch black. You're going to be going to school in pitch black or going to work in pitch black, and it'll be pitch black for the first hour of the school day. and the workday. So it's just robbing us of that morning sunlight just to get an extra hour of daylight. That doesn't really make sense in the wintertime because you're going to have that extra hour of daylight would be negligible because instead of it setting at 4:30, it's going to be setting at 5:30, and I'm talking down in Winnipeg. So that hour is kind of negligible because you're going to be either working through that hour or commuting home during that extra hour. And by the time you're home, it's pitch black anyway. So it doesn't really make sense to have permanent daylight savings time in Manitoba, let alone here in Churchill.
And can you just remind folks what it's like in Churchill, let's say December 21st? How much sunlight do you get in a day there?
About 6 hours and 15 minutes. So it's not much daylight at all.
Okay. And what about the peak of summer, in June? What does that look like for you?
Well, that's about 18 and a half hours.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay, so on standard time, at least, you the sun would set then. If we ended up staying with just standard time all the time, it would go down at what time then in June-ish, 9-ish then, 9:30?
Yeah, 9:30.
Okay,
so
as opposed to 10:30.
Yeah, so right now it's 10:30 with daylight savings time, and if it was permanent standard time, it would be 9:30 sunsets here. So yeah, it's a lot of this argument doesn't take into account of just basically where we live on the planet. We have wild swings between winter and summer, and that kind of goes up exponentially the further north you get. So and really Winnipeg only gets, in the summertime, you get only about an hour and a half less than we do up here.
Mm-hmm.
And, same sort of thing in December. So it's a great idea. I think people think about daylight savings time, they think about summer, and they think about light and how great it is in the summertime, but that just won't apply in the winter, and it would have an adverse effect on us, especially further north.
So I know I mentioned the Premier there earlier. So Premier Wapkanu, he said at this time he's not considering permanently adopting daylight time. Does that give you hope then that eventually we'll just go full on standard year round?
Well, yeah. I mean, that would be kind of the goal. The way that we kind of have it now, obviously, is the compromise. But the price that we pay is that we spring forward in March, spring forward in March that everybody hates. Obviously, there's lots of studies about the time change and how it affects people adversely, and of course that is all legitimate. I just fear that we will go, the route that everybody's talking about, permanent daylight saving time, when it's actually been tried before in the United States. Back in the 70s, they thought this would be great to get that extra hour all the time, and support went from about 74% at its start to under 50% support for full time daylight savings time when people factored in, hey, winters actually kind of suck. not having that morning light. So I think people are discounting the effect that morning light has on their day, and I think they're going to see that in British Columbia. And I just, I worry about the trend, because now Alberta's talking about it, and thankfully the Premier is like, okay, we got bigger fish to fry right now. So I hope that is enough time to see the adverse effects that it's going to have on British Columbia.
Well, we'll leave it there, Joe. Thanks for your time this morning. Really appreciate it.
You got it. Have a great day.
That is Joe Stover. He lives in Churchill.
We may as well be talking in an echo chamber. CBC is changing that. Manitoba Talks, a matching software that brings together people with opposing views, different views, one conversation. Sign up today and challenge your perspective. Sign up at cbc.ca/mbtalks.
6:21 right now. You're listening to Information Radio here on CBC Radio 1. Well, researchers at the University of Waterloo estimate that each Canadian throws away more than 25 kilograms, that's about 55 pounds, of electronic waste each year. So that includes such things as phones, computers, microwaves. And those same researchers are now studying how to prevent all that stuff from being trashed. The report is called How Long Do Consumer Electronics Last in Canada? The researchers found that almost 2/3 of the electronics we throw out actually still work. Elham Mohammadi is a postdoc at the University of Waterloo and the lead author of the study, and he joins me now. Good morning.
Hi, good morning. Thanks for having me.
Just to start here, what were you measuring in this study?
In this specific study, we try to measure how long do common consumer electronics like phones actually stay in use in Canadian households. And more broadly, the study asked how Canadian consumers purchase and why they replace their electronics.
And what were the most significant results that you found?
As you mentioned, one of the most significant results is that 1/3 of devices are replaced because they stop. Only 1/3 are replaced because they stop working, and most are replaced earlier due to things like aging batteries, new features, or limited repair options. And another interesting finding was that 70% of consumers buy their electronics brand new, and only 5% buy secondhand. That's something that we really don't want to see.
So how do the lifetime electronic devices in Canada compare to those in the rest of the world?
The patterns are somehow similar to those seen in other developed countries, but when device lifespans in Canada are compared to, with those in developing countries, several interesting differences appear. But when I say they are comparable to other developed countries, this doesn't necessarily mean that the performance is good and we are just doing good and we don't need any improvements. But extending device lifetimes is really required, and we would need to reduce environmental burdens because globally a large portion of e-waste is not properly recycled.
So what do these results tell us about, how we can reduce e-waste better here in Canada?
There are several things that we can do as consumers, because consumers play a very important role in reducing e-waste as we make our daily decisions about buying, using, and disposing our devices. So the good news is that we can make by the decisions we make, we can make a meaningful difference. So one thing we can do is to buy refurbished electronics instead of buying a new one, or passing along devices to someone else, like to a friend or family member, or donate them to, organizations that can give it to someone that really needs it. Or if it really doesn't function well, we really need to hand it over to a reliable recycling center. And we should also try to figure out whether we can repair it instead of replacing it.
What about from a policy perspective? Like, what can governments do to reduce e-waste?
There are a couple of, good steps which have been taken in Canada during the past few years. For example, extended producer responsibility programs have been one of them. Recently in Ontario, there had been Bill 91, which aimed to give consumers the right to repair. And the bill requires manufacturers to provide repair information, tools, and software that can help consumers and also independent repair centers to fix products more easily. So these are good things that has happened recently, but we still need lots of other things to happen.
Well, Elham, we'll leave it there. Thanks so much for your time this morning. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Elham Mohammadi is a postdoctoral student at the University of Waterloo. She is the co-author of a recent study on how long electronics last in Canada. 6:26 right now. You're listening to Information Radio here on CBC Radio 1. And, of course, the Folk Fest lineup came out last week, and there was obviously some big names in there, but there's always those little names that maybe you haven't heard of before. So we thought we'd play one of them. That's probably new to you. This is Tinge with Inside Jokes here on CBC Radio 1.
Drifting away, had so again. If you ever need me, I'll be on the outside of the inside jokes. No, you won't. If you want me, let me know, 'cause I'm almost convinced that I'm better off alone. I guess my hands are too sore and rough to hold anyways. Yeah.
That's Tinge with Inside Joke. You can catch them at the Winnipeg Folk Fest coming up in July. Well, coming up here on Information Radio on our business report, the federal government has announced $35 billion for defense and infrastructure in Canada's north. We're going to get the details on that after your CBC Winnipeg News.
This is CBC News. At 6:30, we're at minus 13 with partly cloudy, windy conditions in downtown Winnipeg. We have a slight chance of snow today. Good morning. I'm Matt Humphrey. The Manitoba Health Coalition is calling for an inquest into the deaths of 2 people who died after giving plasma. A CBC News investigation found 2 fatal adverse reactions were reported to Health Canada after giving plasma at 2 Grifols locations in Winnipeg. The for-profit collection centers pay people for their plasma. Noah Schultz is the provincial director of the Health Coalition.
We would like to see both independent, or that is judicial inquests called by the chief medical examiner. Let's have a more fulsome investigation of how these deaths happened.
Indeed, the chief medical examiner would have to initiate an inquest, which is then presided over by a judge who looks at the circumstances that led to someone dying. Health Canada is still reviewing what happened and has not found a link between the plasma collection and deaths. New numbers suggest students in Manitoba's geographically largest school division are frequently missing class. 6,400 K-8 students were recorded absent in the 2023-24 school year. Almost 2/3 of those students are with the Frontier School Division, a massive division covering rural and remote areas. Tyson McGilvery is the chief superintendent.
I would say we're still struggling with attendance, and I think that can be said. There's no one fix for improving attendance. We have put a number of strategies, and those strategies can look different from one school to the other.
McGilvery says the province's nutrition program is helping attendance this year, but he says there aren't enough resources, and the need is growing exponentially every day, he says. This week saw dozens of people in the south end of Brandon get their tires slashed. Brandon police say the investigation is still ongoing. Garth Drakely spent Wednesday morning helping a friend change her tire.
You're just trying to get your kids to school and then go to work, and I was a lucky person. I didn't get hit with that, but I had to help a friend of mine before she could even do anything in the morning.
Drakely says when he came out of his house, he was greeted by tow trucks and a line of cars with slashed tires. Police say so far 72 tire slashings have been reported. No arrests have been made. Investigators are asking anyone who may have footage of the area from March 11th to please share it. Manitoba's progressive conservatives are pitching the idea of almost doubling the basic personal exemption. That's the amount Manitobans can earn before they start paying provincial income tax. Right now, it's just under $16,000. If elected next year, the Tories say they'd raise that to $30,000. PC finance critic Lauren Stone says a family earning $60,000 would save around $3,000 a year.
We want Manitobans, when they have that extra $3,000 at the end of the year, or that single one-income mom or parent getting that extra $1,500 at the end of the year. We want them to be able to buy that healthy, wholesome food at the grocery store rather than go to a food bank.
The New Democrats say the highest earners in the province would benefit the most from the change, but the PCs say it would be a big help to low-income earners. The next provincial election is scheduled for fall of next year. Norway is hosting NATO's cold response exercises with Prime Minister Mark Carney expected to be on hand. About 25,000 troops from 14 different countries are taking part in the exercises, including the Canadian Armed Forces. Exactly how many Canadian troops are taking part is not being released. Carney is also scheduled to hold a bilateral meeting with his Norwegian counterpart tomorrow to discuss foreign investment, clean energy, critical minerals, aerospace, and artificial intelligence. And finally, some big news for Manitoba music lovers.
Because when I think of Winnipeg, I think of great music. Hey, Winnipeg, it's so great to be home! Let's get this party started. Let's go!
The Junos will be held in Winnipeg next year. The official announcement came last night at an event downtown. Kate Fensky is the CEO of the Downtown Winnipeg Biz.
It really is about celebrating our city, bringing community together, and it's going to be so positive. When we look at the impact on businesses, we know people are going out for entertainment, for connecting with each other, but just celebrating arts and culture, and that's where all of it comes together in downtown Winnipeg.
Juno festivities happen the first week of April next year, running from April 1st to April 4th, with the big show happening at Canada Life Centre. And if you're wondering who will host the Junos, who the host will be, the person, that has not been announced just yet. And that's your CBC News for Winnipeg.
Thank you very much, Matt.
Is it you?
It is not me. I've not heard yet. But we are actually going to be having the planners behind the Junos on, the people putting it on here in the city at 7:40 to talk about what they hope to see for it and what it took to get the Junos here.
Oh, just under an hour.
Yep, coming up.
Back soon.
Thank you very much, Matt. That is Matt Humphrey at our CBC News desk. Let's check in on the forecast here, Abby. What's going on?
Yeah, no weather warnings I see for now, but we have a mix of sun and clouds across the southern part of the province later. Then the deep freeze still continues to grip the northern regions, while we see temperatures in the northern region, the southern end, hover between minus 10 to almost minus 18 in the Brandon end this morning. For the Red River Valley region, we're expecting a mainly cloudy day. We're starting clear. Current temperatures around minus 13. We warm up to minus 8 later in the day. We do have this slim chance of light snow possible today under some breezy north winds with morning wind chills around minus 25, minus 26. For the Pembina Valley region, similar conditions. Temperatures around minus 12. Light snow in the forecast, high of minus 8. Brandon tracking it all the way towards Nippo and nearby communities. We're seeing temperatures around minus 18 at this time. Cloudy skies. You warm up to about minus 9 later in the day. The morning wind chill, you will feel it in the Brandon region. It feels close to minus 31. That means there's a risk of frostbite in play. For the Dauphin region, all the way tracking it towards Roblin, we're around minus 11 at this time. Light snow present there at this time. You warm up to minus 8. For Gimli and regions in the Interlake area, we're seeing temperatures around minus 14 at this time. Also with light snow, high will be around minus 6, though the wind chill feels like minus 25 this morning. Then we're tracking it into the northern half of the province. The Power Flim Flam, we're looking at both areas hovering around minus 24, minus 25. Light snow moving in. We'll see highs around minus 15, accompanied by biting wind chill around minus 31. For Thompson, Gillam, Lynn clear skies prevail, but current temperatures hover between minus 29 and minus 32 in these regions, and highs will be between minus 17 and minus 21. However, the morning wind chill for that area, we're seeing the wind chill as low as minus 43, which means frostbite can occur in minutes. Also, to the lake, you're around minus 32. Clear skies, you have highs around 21, minus 21 rather. Dangerous wind chill close to minus 47. And then further north in the Churchill region, minus 33 at this time. Ice crystals in the air. Highs will be around minus 27, where we have also that dangerous wind chill close to minus 48 this morning. Frostbite in minutes. So Corey, still no warnings, but it's still very cold in the northern parts of the province. While down south, we might get a spot light snow here and there, and we'll see highs maybe around minus 8 for most of the regions. Winnipeg around minus 13 at this time.
You know, I think it was about 6 weeks ago to the day that I was that it was Groundhog Day, and Manitoba Merv was like, "We got 6 more weeks of winter." I was like, "Come on, no way, we can't trust that little fur ball."
Don't trust the fur ball.
But here we are.
Yeah, we still
was
more
right.
of it. Yeah, I know, like some people go, "Don't trust the fur ball," and like, oh, okay, I'm sure they know something.
You win this one, Manitoba Merv.
Merv.
Well, thank you very much, Abby. 6:38 right now. Let's check in with the commute with Sierra Sanders.
Hi, Corey. Got a call from Jamie. There's a vehicle that spun out on the Provincial Bridge going eastbound in the left-hand lane. And he said that it might creep up on you as the vehicle doesn't have any lights flashing, but the hood is up. So if you are heading eastbound on the Provincial Bridge, keep that in mind as you are coming onto the bridge. He mentioned that it was kind of just at the beginning of the bridge there. So keep that in mind if that is on your commute this morning. A vehicle spun out on the Provincial Bridge going east and in the left-hand lane. So you want to keep right to pass there and approach with caution as it might creep up on you. Jamie did say that it is moving smoothly so far. So hopefully that doesn't cause too much backups and that situation can be cleared here soon. Anything else going on in the commute, give me a call on the CBC commuter line, whether you are here in the city or anywhere else in the province. I would love to hear from you. The number to call is 204-788-3093.
Thank you very much, Sierra.
Thank you.
That's Sierra Sanders, our studio director. Well, Christalee Ramlakan is here now with your business report. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, Corey.
So the federal government announced $35 billion for defense and infrastructure in Canada's north. So can you break down the details for us?
Yes, the Liberal government has unveiled a detailed proposal to modernize and expand Canada's military footprint in the far north. So the plan includes base upgrades, runway improvements and expansions, and construction of hangars and roads in a number of locations across the Arctic. It also includes improvements to civilian infrastructure. Retired General and former Chief of the Defense Staff Thomas Lawson says the plan will have multiple benefits.
Everything that goes into civilian infrastructure makes the defense job easier up there because they can use those roads, they can use that power. But just as importantly, everything that happens for defense up there makes the life better and safer for the 140,000 people who live in the north in terms of search and rescue and responding to natural environmental disasters and things like that.
Now, most of the investment is being drawn from a pool of money set aside almost 4 years ago by former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's government to modernize NORAD, the binational North American Air Defense Command shared with the United States. And Corey, this money is expected to roll out over the next dozen years.
So moving on now to speaking of the States, the Trump administration has launched trade investigations into multiple countries. So that was, of course, after the Supreme Court struck the president's tariffs down. So what do we know about how Canada might be affected by that?
Well, Canada is not on the list of countries targeted, but a number of other nations are, including Mexico, China, the European Union, Switzerland, Norway, Thailand, South Korea, Taiwan, Japan, and India. And that's not even the full list. So the investigations are Donald Trump's latest attempt to implement worldwide tariffs. But as you said, last month, the Supreme Court said Trump's favorite tariff tool, the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, could not be used for tariffs. The court found the U.S. Constitution very clearly gives Congress power over taxes and tariffs. Now, in response to that, Trump implemented a 10% worldwide tariff using a section of the 1974 Trade Act. But those tariffs do not apply to goods compliant with the Canada-U.S.-Mexico Agreement on Trade, known as CUSMA, and the tariffs will expire after 150 days unless Congress votes to extend them, and it's unlikely Congress will approve an extension. However, Canada, as we know, is still facing tariffs on specific industries, including steel, aluminum, automobiles, and cabinetry.
So next here, with fees when you cancel or switch your cell phone or internet plan are going away, it's some nice positive potential telecom news there. What are the details on that?
Yes, that's right. Canada's telecommunications regulator says it will prevent companies from charging customers when they cancel, change, or activate plans. The CRTC says the move is meant to make it easier for consumers to switch plans, enabling them to take advantage of better offers. The new rules come into effect on June 12th, and the CRTC says activation fees have ranged from roughly $30 to $80. And the regulator says it will announce additional consumer protection measures in the coming months to make it easier to shop for, compare, and choose plans. And the Commission also has been considering measures to ensure people know when their plans or discounts are about to end to avoid bill shocks. I know I always put a note in my calendar like, okay, renew your cable bill or whatever internet bill deal in a year from now. But once you see it come up, you're like, wait, what was this note for? Like, I'm not exactly sure what the plan was or the discount was.
Right. And I think a lot of Canadians play this game of like you sign up with one company until, all of a sudden, and it's like a decent deal until all of a sudden, like a year later, you see your bill and it's like, whoa, what's this?
Yes.
And then you call them and you either threaten to leave or you do leave. And then it drops down again. It's this game we've all been playing, right? So it'll be neat to see what comes out of that.
Yeah, exactly. And was the extra amount you paid that month, worth the savings that you got all year?
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, I know. It's quite the game we all play. And finally here, some media news. So could we see BuzzFeed go totally out of business?
Well, the digital media company that took the mid-2010s by storm says it has substantial doubt about its ability to continue as a business. So the company was $165 million in debt 3 years ago. That's been slashed by more than 65%, but the company is still burdened by what it calls legacy commitments. BuzzFeed also owns news site HuffPost and online food network Tasty. And the company was, once very popular with its online quizzes and viral videos. You can find out what Disney princess you were or whatever. But in 2023, the decline of the digital empire has been playing out since its IPO in 2021. And in 2023, the Pulitzer Prize-winning BuzzFeed News shut down. And BuzzFeed has also gone through several rounds of layoffs and cost-cutting measures, including selling off part of the company in 2024.
I always remember the listicles. That was like the cool thing.
Yes.
That was their big innovation, the listicles. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
and now we're just like, oh, that's just aggregated AI content.
Yeah, exactly.
Little did we know.
Who knew? They were ahead of the curve, if you will.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Crystalie.
Okay, thanks, Corey.
That is Crystalie Ramlakan with your business news. Well, coming up right ahead here on CBC Radio 1, the war started by the U.S. and Israel against Iran has now escalated into a regional conflict and a global energy crisis. We're going to take the measure of the war 14 days in. But first, though, March break is almost here, and many parents are feeling the pressure to spend. Kids want fun, and parents want to keep costs under control. But the good news, you don't need a big trip or expensive camp to make it special. Personal finance columnist Rubina Ahmed Haq joins us with tips on how to have an affordable March break that's enjoyable for everybody.
When it comes to March break in my house, I let my kids decide what we're going to do. It's risky, but their ideas are usually unique and cheaper than what I was thinking of. One year, my daughter said she wanted to perfect her baking skills. Another time, my son wanted to take his bike to a new trail we'd never been to.
At the end of the day, we don't really need to compete with what we see on Instagram, right?
Yashi Murphy is a parenting content creator. On social media, she shares tons of information on how to keep kids occupied without spending too much money. She says the approach of letting kids lead the activities is something she does as well.
I know a few years ago I was chatting with mine and the need of them needing some R&R came out. So I'm used to, busy March breaks. We go somewhere, we're exploring, doing things every day. But at the end of the day, what they wanted was to just chill. And doesn't mean only be on screens, but just to relax and not have it be as fast paced.
But she admits March break can be a financial struggle. A few big ticket events can set your budget back big time. She has this advice for parents trying to manage their budget and their kids' expectations.
Many of the museums have one free evening, afternoon, or a daytime visit, so you can definitely save money there. Also look at Groupon. I think we've all forgotten that this site exists, but I have purchased so many tickets on more than 50% off to see the various shows and pop-up attractions that come into the city. And don't forget the happy hours in your city. It's not just for adults to go and enjoy the city, it's also for family experiences. So I take my children, we go and have a nice meal somewhere or have a fun meal somewhere and not really hurt our pockets that much.
So I think March break is actually perfect time to teach kids about financial literacy because we are more present because we usually have more time.
Maya Korbick is the founder of the Wealthy Kids Investment Club and the author of the book From Piggy Banks to Stocks, The Ultimate Guide for a Young Investor. A CPA by trade, Korbick uses her knowledge to teach younger Canadians how to manage money.
Whether parents are taking vacation or just staying in the city and doing an adventure in the city, one of the things that I always tell parents to do is to give kids a small budget for that activity or vacation. And this budget is just there for kids to learn how to manage that money.
She says this one activity teaches kids about budgeting, finding value, understanding how to make a sales transaction, and making sure your money lasts all week. And she adds, it can be fun too. Korbick says parents should also take advantage of the fact that kids are home during the day and are able to witness tasks you would normally do when they are at school.
If over March break, let's say you're negotiating your cell phone bill, this is a good time to talk to your kids about why you're doing this. You can, if you feel comfortable, you can show them how much your cell phone bill is currently and what kind of deal you're trying to get. So that not only teaches them about money, but it teaches them negotiation skills.
Korbick suggests taking your kids grocery shopping during March break, teaching them about how to find the best value, how to comparison shop, and different payment options.
If you are paying with a card, to some kids, especially younger kids, a card is a card. They don't understand the difference between bank card and a credit card. Well, this is a good opportunity to explain what I'm paying with right now is a bank card. The money that pays for this through the card is the money that I already have in my bank account.
Both experts agree that parents and kids should not try to keep up with what other people are doing. March break is about spending time together that feels good and doesn't put you in debt. For CBC Radio, I'm Rubina Ahmed-Haq.
It's an honor. The White House.
The stories that matter.
The opportunity is in the partnership.
As they happen.
There are some places that are never for sale.
And what they mean to you.
But never say never. Never say never.
For news you can trust, stay with CBC News.
6:50 right now. You're listening to Information Radio here on CBC Radio 1. Well, it's been 2 weeks since the United States and Israel started their war against Iran. And since then, the conflict has widened across the region and caused a global energy crisis. U.S. President Donald Trump has said he might end the war soon, but it's often said that wars, once started, are unpredictable. For a recap of all the latest military developments in the fast-moving conflict, we're joined by Christian Leuprecht. He's a professor at the Royal Military College and Queen's University. Good morning.
Good morning.
So, 14 days in now, what's your headline summarizing the state of the U.S.-Israeli war right now?
Well, I have two. One is there's a reason why no U.S. administration in 47 years has tried what the Trump administration is trying to do here, and it's playing out exactly as predicted by the U.S. national intelligence community. The other is that Trump believes he can defy his critics. He defied his critics on JCPOA when he withdrew from that and Trump won. He defied his critics when he took out General Soleimani, the IRGC general who was running much of the Iranian militias in the region. And he defied his critics when he bombed Iran in 2025. And I think he believes he can prevail again. So we'll see how this goes.
Are there any indications at all that U.S. President, Donald Trump may actually end the war in Iran anytime soon?
Well, the fact that he's sending a third aircraft carrier to the region suggests to me that he's probably not about to end it anytime soon. And look, to the contrary, the benefits of the war actually accrue disproportionately to the United States and Russia, by the way, and the costs fall disproportionately on everyone else, especially on countries in the region. So based on that premise, Trump can keep this going for a while. The real sort of wild card is how long Trump believes he can sustain a higher price at the pumps before that might have consequences for the congressional election in the fall. But of course, if he comes out the winner on the conflict with Iran, then he believes that'll have positive consequences for the election. So we'll see.
You mentioned there that the positives you said are mainly for U.S. and Russia. What do you mean by that?
So the U.S., I think Trump's strategy for his second term is there's three pillars. And the first pillar of that is make the U.S. a global energy superpower. because you need energy in order to drive artificial intelligence, and you need energy to drive, for instance, semiconductor production. And so whoever controls energy is going to prevail in the 21st century. And that's, I think, what Venezuela was about. That's what the 51st state rhetoric with Canada is about, and that's what Iran is about. And so what he's trying to accomplish in Iran, aside from making sure Iran doesn't get a nuclear weapon, is trying to get his thumb on Iranian oil in particular, and controlling the Strait of Hormuz. And if you look at Trump's strategy, so not only has he been trying to control oil reserves around the world, as I say, Venezuela, but also those critical choke points. If you look at what the Panama Canal rhetoric, but also his protection of the Al-Mandab Strait. So these areas where, because energy, of course, isn't distributed randomly across the world, there's a few places where it's heavily concentrated. And so you have to control not just those particular places, you have to control the ability to ship through those places if you want to be an energy superpower.
And speaking of Iran's response to all this, it is using unconventional warfare methods to hit back at the U.S. and Israel. So can you just explain how effective that's been?
Yeah, I would call it an asymmetric strategy. When you're the smaller partner in the conflict, you can't fight like the big guy. You're going to have to fight differently. And there's four parts to that. First is trying to exhaust the adversary with these missiles and $10,000 drones that you send en masse that your adversary then has to take out using $200,000 missiles. Now, there's lots of ways that you can intercept drones, but this effort to try to wear down the interceptor missiles in particular, which Iran knows are in very limited supply, is a key plank of the strategy. Second is go after civilian infrastructure. You've seen the strikes on ports and airports, but in particular desalination plants. 90% of the drinking water in the region comes from desalination plants. Many of those plants are connected to their capitals by a single pipeline. That's the case in Saudi Arabia, for instance. You hit the plant or the pipeline and the taps literally go dry. The third is turn it into as much of a regional conflagration and draw in as many countries as you possibly can. Hence the idea of targeting Cyprus, targeting Turkey. There's now 14 countries that are involved in this conflict, and Iran is trying to broaden that. And the fourth is close the Strait of Hormuz. And that's relatively easy to do. The shipping channel is 2 miles wide at its nearest point. You sink 2 ships, you add a couple of mines, and basically that's the end of navigation.
You mentioned those desalination plants. Interestingly, Prime Minister Mark Carney said that Canada will never get involved in the U.S.-Israeli war in Iran, but Canadian Defence Minister David McGuinty, he said that the Canadian military could get involved in civilian projects like helping Gulf countries with their desalination plants. Can you explain more a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'd say never. Look, we've been in the Middle East since 1956, since the Suez Crisis, when we invented peacekeeping in order to keep the superpowers apart from and keep them from going to war. We've had peacekeeping missions. We've had all sorts of missions since then, including the anti-ISIS coalition mission. In the first 2 days, Camp Canada was apparently hit. So that's a camp that we have in Kuwait inside a larger American military installation. So the idea that somehow we're not involved and we can keep out of this conflict defies the reality of the Middle East and our involvement and our interests in the Middle East, which are ultimately tied to regional stability. Our coalition partners, our allied partners in the United Kingdom and France are actively musing about a naval mission to keep the Strait of Hormuz open. Are we really going to sit on our hands in this country when we've disappointed our allies for a decade in Europe when it comes to exporting hydrocarbons and critical minerals? And look, one way or another, when the conflict is all over, we're going to be involved in mopping it up, as we always are when the Americans decide to go to war somewhere. So in that sense, I'm perhaps a bit less optimistic than our Prime Minister about us not being or having to get involved. And it's puzzling that we would cite desalination as an area where Canada gets involved, because given all the drinking water that we have in this country, one area where we actually don't have a particular comparative advantage is desalination technology.
Well, we'll leave it there. Thanks so much for your time this morning, Christian.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you. Have a good morning.
Christian Leuprecht is a professor at the Royal Military College at Queen's University and a senior fellow at Macdonald Laurier Institute. 6:58 right now, and coming up, some Winnipeg students are having second thoughts about giving plasma.
They are all struggling to make ends meet with prices going high. And a lot of them have considered the option of donating plasma for that quick incentive. But they're scared now.
That's Alan Saji Koshi speaking about a university student who died after giving plasma. Later in the show, we're going to hear from a director who works with other vulnerable people in Winnipeg who rely on selling their plasma for cash. That conversation coming up in our 7 o'clock hour on the show. Right now, though, let's check in with Matt Humphrey with a look at news headlines.
A Winnipeg developer has filed a second lawsuit against Peguis First Nation, accusing the nation's leadership of breach of contract for what the court filing describes as sharing confidential information with the media, specifically with the CBC. We'll hear from our reporter who's been following the story at the bottom of the hour.
Thank you very much, Matt.
Back soon.
That's Matt Humphrey at our CBC News Desk. Also coming up this next half hour on the show, the Junos are coming back to Winnipeg. We're going to hear how the national event will put a spotlight on the city's music scene from the people who are putting it on and in charge of planning it here in Winnipeg. Commute is looking okay so far, but if you do see something going on, you can give us a call, 204-788-3093. Sierra is standing by to pick up the phone. I'm Corey Funk, in for Marcy Marcusa. We'll see you after World Report.
On the current.
Can you fly this plane and land it?
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious, and don't call me Shirley.
I'm Dave Seglins. Nobody likes airplane food, right? Or the middle seat? Or turbulence? Well, it turns out that's not quite true. We'll hear from 3 people on what it's like to love what everyone else hates about travel. That's coming up on The Current.
The Current, this morning at 8:37, 9:07 in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app.
This is World Report. Good morning, I'm John Northcott. In Tehran, thousands of people taking part in an annual rally in support of the regime. It comes as Israel launches a new wave of airstrikes, some hitting near the crowd. With the war now about to enter its 3rd week, the U.S. president tells Fox News this morning the strikes will intensify even more.
We've already damaged them so badly, it would take years for them to ever rebuild. And we're going to be hitting them very hard over the next week.
With more on the latest developments, we go to the CBC chief news correspondent, Adrienne Arsenault. Now, she's in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Adrienne, you have developments on that U.S. refueling plane that crashed in Iraq.
We do indeed. We have heard from U.S. Central Command that 4 of the 6 crew members on board that plane, it was a refueling jet, are now confirmed deceased. We're still waiting for word on the other 2. A few details of what happened here. The Americans are saying there were 2 planes in the air. The one that went down in Iraq was this refueling jet. The other plane landed safely in another country. The pictures of its tail show it partially sliced. What happened is not entirely clear, but the Americans insist it was neither friendly nor hostile fire, which suggests it just could have been a mid-air collision while refueling or trying to refuel. So the concern right now is the fate of those other 2 service members.
Oh, Adrienne, this as tanker traffic is halted through the Strait of Hormuz, with oil continuing to be an urgent part of the conversation.
It really is an urgent part of the conversation. Over the last few days, we've looked at efforts to mitigate the damage being caused by that Iranian stranglehold on the Strait of Hormuz. You saw G7 countries recommend the biggest release of emergency reserves in history. Prices still went up. The U.S. waived sanctions on the sale of Russian oil for a month. Prices still went up about 10% this week so far. Now there's this new effort from the U.S. It's considering waiving a 100-year-old rule called the Jones Act, which effectively insists that only American ships, crewed, built, flagged, work at American ports. They may lift that rule just to keep essentials flowing in the United States, but even though that proposal's out there, the price pressure isn't lessening at all. We keep hearing that all of these solutions are Band-Aid solutions, unlikely to fix what worries the markets and everyone else. Keep an eye on what Saudi Arabia is doing, though. It's been afraid of this precise scenario for decades, so it built a pipeline from the Persian Gulf to the Red Sea, so east to west, away from the Strait of Hormuz to another shipping route. So it's now trying to move much of its oil and tankers west to that new, safer route. That could stabilize supply and price, but not quickly.
CBC News chief correspondent Adrienne Arsenault in Riyadh. Thanks, Adrienne.
Thank you.
Meanwhile, Iran continues its attacks in and around the Persian Gulf, now targeting cities and financial districts in the region. Megan Williams has more from Dubai.
2 foreign nationals were killed and several others injured after a drone crashed into an industrial area in Sohar, Oman, while a second drone came down nearby in an open area without causing injuries. Here in Dubai, debris struck the facade of a skyscraper in Dubai International Financial Center after air defenses intercepted an Iranian drone about 60 stories up early this morning, followed by warnings of missile attacks after. Banks and financial firms in Dubai and Abu Dhabi have sent staff home after Iran warned it would target economic interests linked to the U.S. and Israel. Across the Gulf, Bahrain, Kuwait, Oman, Saudi Arabia, and Qatar have all reported missile or drone attacks on energy infrastructure, U.S. bases, and diplomatic sites. After hitting 6 vessels in the past 2 days in the Strait of Hormuz, Iran says ships can still pass through if they coordinate with its navy, effectively claiming control of the world's most critical oil corridor. Megan Williams, CBC News, Dubai.
Many of us are feeling the impact of the war in Iran at the gas pumps, but for many in India, the crisis is hurting the kitchen. The conflict is creating a major shortage of the gas used for cooking, and it's sparking panic amongst restaurateurs, some of whom are being forced to close their doors. CBC South Asia correspondent Salima Shivji has the story from Mumbai.
The line stretches long outside the gas depot in Ahmedabad in western India. Dozens of people stand in the heat with their empty liquefied petroleum gas cylinders, desperate to get a full one as supply dwindles and tempers flare. I've been here since 5 in the morning, this man says, and I still won't get one. The gas, essential for cooking in many of India's households, is running dangerously low, with the war in Iran choking the Strait of Hormuz, disrupting shipments that make up 45% of India's gas imports. The government is forcing its refiners to maximize domestic LPG production and has prioritized protecting supply to homes, hospitals, and schools. But restaurants are struggling, says Bengaluru pizza chef Guruda.
There's definitely panic for sure, but they're all trying to fight this battle and see how long they can stretch it. I mean, that's the only thing. I mean, after you reach a point where there's no other option left, you'll have to shut shop.
Still, India is faring better than its neighbors. In Pakistan, the price of petrol is 20% higher than normal. And in Bangladesh, a severe fuel shortage has forced universities to close. The country has asked New Delhi to share some of its diesel, says India's External Affairs Ministry spokesperson Randir Jaiswal.
These are being examined, taking into account our own energy requirements and availability that we have.
Sri Lanka and the Maldives have also made similar requests as panic over how much is in reserve rises. Salima Shivji, CBC News, Mumbai.
Prime Minister Mark Carney unveils a massive $35 billion package for Canada's Northern Territories. The investment is designed to strengthen the country's military presence in the Arctic and build critical infrastructure. As the CBC's David Thurton reports, the plan includes a mix of new defense spending and a nation-building road and port project.
We're taking up the Mackenzie Valley Highway at our major projects office. This summer, we will start construction.
That project Prime Minister Mark Carney is talking about would connect remote parts of the Northwest Territories, replacing ice roads with gravel roads. The Grays Bay Port and road is also going to the major projects office. It would connect a deep water Arctic port in Nunavut to the rest of Canada.
It's a weird term, but it's dual use because it's relevant both for the military personnel who come, but also for the community.
But the vast majority of the money being announced, $32 billion, will go to direct military investments, upgrading forward operating locations, staging bases for fighter jets in Happy Valley, Goose Bay, Iqaluit, Yellowknife, and Inuvik. David Thurton, CBC News, Ottawa.
Some officials in the north, meanwhile, are expressing frustration. They say Ottawa made the plans for their region without consulting or even informing them. They include Whitehorse Mayor Kirk Cameron.
They just don't spend the kind of time that I think they should be talking to us in advance to have a dialogue that will get us to a place, at a minimum, that we understand where they want to go.
The Whitehorse Mayor is not alone. The Premier of Yukon, Curry Dixon, also expressing frustration. He says the territory is being overlooked. No money has been allocated to his part of the country. March weather brings the hope of warmer spring days, but the shift between seasons often makes this one of the deadliest months for avalanches. As CBC science reporter Anand Ram explains, predicting exactly how a snowpack will behave remains a massive challenge.
A dozen shovels desperately hack at thick ice and snow. On this February night, the Alpine Rescue Team in northwestern Italy knows every second counts when searching for avalanche victims.
Bravo!
Miraculously, they pull a quivering hiker out of a deep hole. A happy ending considering the deadly season it's been in Europe, the U.S., and Canada.
It's the third avalanche death here in BC in a week.
With even experienced and well-equipped people getting caught and killed.
Yeah, it's really tragic to hear about these accidents.
Simon Horton is a forecaster with Avalanche Canada. While the dynamics may sound simple, a dense layer sliding on top of a weak layer, predicting when avalanches happen is tricky.
You can have a layered structure that has potential to be concerning, depending on how the next weather pattern comes into play. And it could go different ways with how that evolves.
Climate change driven by humans burning fossil fuels is affecting avalanches, but exactly how is harder to figure out. Ethan Green is director of the Colorado Avalanche Information Center.
A lot of the stuff that we see, it's not because of one weather event, it's because of a series of weather events. So there's all of these subtleties in there that trying to connect all of those dots to something larger like climate change is really quite difficult.
Still, experts recommend checking the forecast, proper training and equipment, and for any backcountry traveler to be ready to ask themselves, is it time to turn back now? Anand Ram, CBC News, Toronto.
And that is the latest national and international news from World Report. Remember, for news anytime, our website, cbcnews.ca. I'm John Northcott. This is CBC News.
Good morning, Manitoba. You're listening to Information Radio here on CBC Radio 1. I'm Corey Funk, in for Marcy Marcusa. Minus 14 right now at the Forks, heading for a high today of minus 8. Coming up this hour on the show, the head of the U of W Students Association says giving plasma to a company that pays for it is often used by vulnerable people, like international students who struggle financially.
It shows a systemic issue. Students are struggling with a lot of barriers and affordability, food insecurity, and all that.
Later in the show, we're going to hear from an advocate who works with other vulnerable people who may be rolling up their sleeves for cash and why she is concerned. Also, this hour on the show, the Junos are coming back to Winnipeg. Coming up, we're going to hear from the folks behind the event who are in charge of planning it, about what they plan to see for the city and what it's going to take to make it happen. Also, an interesting conversation coming up as well this hour on the show. Just ahead, recently leaked government data shows that thousands of students in Manitoba were chronically absent from school during the 2023-2024 school year. So that begs the question why. We're going to speak to someone who was one of those kids cutting class coming up shortly here. But first, let's check in with Matt Humphrey with a look at news headlines.
Good morning. We are expecting more in the plasma collection story this morning. A Manitoba Health Advocacy group is calling for a provincial inquest into the deaths of the two people after they made donations at paid plasma collection centers in Winnipeg. We're expecting the Manitoba Health Coalition to hold a press conference later this morning. The organization says it wants more than just a Health Canada investigation into what happened. We'll hear the latest at 7:30. We'll also hear from some frustrated drivers in Brandon who had an unpleasant surprise this week when they woke up to find several of their tires had been slashed. Brandon police say 72 incidents of tire slashing have been reported so far. We'll hear more at 7:30.
Thank you very much, Matt.
Back soon.
That's Matt Humphrey at our CBC News Desk. Abby Adiemi, what's going on with the weather?
Yeah, the southern parts of the province enjoying some clear conditions at this time. No formal warnings down south, no formal warnings across the province, though we still have those extreme cold really gripping the far northern end of the province, tracking it from Tudula Lake all the way into Churchill, where we're seeing temperatures between minus 32 and minus 35s. The further you travel this morning, and the wind chills really continues to pose immediate risk. We're talking about frostbite in minutes. We're looking at wind chills close to minus 43 in the Churchill region at this time. Down south, Winnipeg waking up to clear conditions, though we're feeling the cold. It feels like it is actually minus 14 right now. Expecting a mix of sun and clouds today We warm up to about -8 later in the day. And across the southern regions, we're seeing temperatures between -12 and -19 as you get towards the Brandon end. But up north, we're seeing -30s to -35s in the northern half of the province, with the wind chill pegging around -45. Bright morning down south, the clouds are rolling, and we'll see highs get to -8.
Thank you very much, Abby.
Thank you.
That's Abby Adiemi, our studio technician, keeping an eye on the weather. Sierra Sanders is our studio director and keeping an eye on the commute. Good morning.
Hi, Corey. In the last hour, we got a call from Jamie about a spun-out vehicle going eastbound on the Provincial Bridge in the left lane. He mentioned that there was no backups as things were still moving smoothly. It's a little bit early in the morning when he did give us a call, but I'm looking for an update on that situation. So if you are driving in the area there, so eastbound on the Provincial Bridge, I'd love to know if that situation has been cleared or if we're still seeing that car spun out there in that left-hand lane. I'd love to know what you're seeing out there and get an update on that situation. So give me a call on the CBC commuter line if you are able to update me on that situation or anything else that has popped up on your commute this morning, whether you are here in the city or out on the highways. The number to call is 204-788-3093.
$7:14 right now. And next up here on Information Radio, recently leaked government data shows more than 15,000 Manitoba students were chronically absent from school in the 2023-2024 school year. So for Winnipeg parents, Shanice Avery and Aaron Spence, they aren't surprised. They have two school-age kids who are 8 and 4. And CBC's Josh Crabb caught up with them outside a Point Douglas school.
Maybe nowadays, yeah, especially with like kids wanting to be on devices all day long, and
I feel like that's the big thing.
Yeah.
Devices. The problem with our son, if we give him the device in the morning, he's like glued to it, and then by the time time to get ready for school, he's like
doesn't want to go.
Yeah, it makes him want to stay home. He just wants to stay on the device. So if anybody wants, less device time, especially before school, that's a problem we're working on. Yeah.
But your daughter seems to love school?
Yeah, she does. She loves being around her friends and making new friends. Yeah. I'm a little worried about when she gets older, and then because I remember being in high school and not wanting to go, so I'm hoping that doesn't get to her, and the negative vibes from school, I hope those stay out of her mind, and the positive stays more in her mind. So maybe if we keep the positive up higher, that she would want to stay in school and not want to miss school when she's older. That's the goal.
That was Shanice Avery and Aaron Spence in Point Douglas. Sarah Traver is the youth program coordinator at Inner City Youth Alive, an organization which has fought to keep kids in school here in Winnipeg. And she was a kid who wasn't always in school herself. Good morning.
Good morning.
So tell us a little bit about your relationship with school growing up.
I was a kid that moved a lot. So every couple of years we were in a different neighborhood, different house. And so it was always like a repeat. And I had some good experiences. I had some bad experiences with the school. And it just, when I got to about 14, my parents had split up. My mom was in school working as well. And so I just, I didn't see the importance of it, and I stopped attending on a regular basis. I would still kind of pop in every once in a while, but I was never really consistent.
So what comes to mind for you then when you hear that over 15,000 Manitoba students were chronically absent from school in the 2023-24 school year?
I'm not shocked.
And that the experience that you have, of not going to school, is that similar for the kids that you work with now that you hear from? What are you hearing from the kids that you work with about why they don't go to school if they don't?
There's a lot of things going on at home, and that's kind of where it starts. And then also it's when they go to school, there's no one for them to connect with, and then they're stuck with zero relationships, zero encouragement, and then they just fall off track.
And is there, I guess I don't want to say demographic, but what's particularly, like you kind of mentioned stuff going on at home, but is there any common thread amongst the students who are not attending that you've noticed? Any deeper threads?
Well, addiction in the home is one of them, or poverty. Yeah.
I think maybe some people might think like maybe school is an escape from that situation. So why would they stay at home and not go to school? Like what are you hearing from them?
The relationships is a big thing. They go to school and they feel alone, so they would just choose to not go to school. If they don't have clean clothes, they don't want to go to school. If they're hungry, they can't focus, so they don't go to school. So there's a lot of things.
So there's clearly no singular antidote here, but what for with the work that you've done, what have you noticed in terms of things that have gotten students back in the classroom that have worked on your end?
Relationships, connection, every day somebody checking in on them, every day encouraging them, telling them they can do it, listening to what's going on to them. It makes a big difference.
And is that from civil society organizations like yourself, or is that from this happening on the school level?
That's from what I do for work.
Okay, gotcha. And have you noticed a lack of that sort of outreach? I know that schools are already busy enough as it is. Obviously, teachers have their hands full. But have you noticed any successful efforts or anything like that happening in schools themselves that once kids get back at school that keep them there?
No, I have not seen that. And I know that schools are busy and it's a new thing that they're trying to implement their outreach workers. But I've done a lot of work where I'm getting them to the point where they're getting into school. And then once they get to school, they're not, they don't do well because there's nobody there to greet them, to help them in class. And then they feel like they're falling behind or they are not caught up to where they should be in the class. So they feel the stress of that, so they would rather just not go.
So what do you think then the province could do to
more support? Definitely.
What would that support look like, you think?
More one-on-one connection with EA, outreach workers. Just relationship connection, encouragement. All those things.
Does your organization have a formal relationship with schools like that? Like, should there be more of those kind of formal relationships happening between yours and the schools, or is it your relationship more informal? Like, hey, kids go to school, and then the school kind of.
Oh no, I would love to be involved with the schools.
Oh, okay, but there isn't any sort of formal ties of like, hey, we're partnering with you to get more kids into school. Nothing like that.
No, we've had some, but not all.
Okay, so that's something you think there should be more of. Okay. And what could that look like? Would that require some more funding then for that kind of thing to happen, you think?
Definitely. We would definitely benefit from more funding. Because this isn't a one-man job. This is so much more bigger than that.
And for yourself, just to kind of bring it full circle here, you were a kid that you said didn't go to school. Now you're working to get kids into school. What got you going back to school and doing school?
I had support. I had some good people that I met through church and things that brought me back in and made me realize that it was something that I would benefit from later on in life.
Okay. Well, we'll leave it there, Sarah. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
You too.
Sarah Traver is the youth program coordinator at Inner City Youth Alive. 7:22 right now. Morning Sports is just ahead, but we do have a little bit of time now for some music here on Information Radio. Winnipeg-based indie folk singer, songwriter, and actor Tommy Douglas Keenan has new music for your playlist this month. His new album is titled Returns to the Moon, and he recently released at Side Stage with a little help from Hera and Son of Dave. And from that new record, here's the single from Rocking Horse. This is Tommy Douglas Keenan with Rocking Horse.
Little leather-bound rocking horse taking me home. all just talk, of course I gotta run. Don't believe everything you hear on the phone. This little guy can't eat up the mile. Everyone we ride by can't help but smile. Little leather-bound rocking horse wearing me out. Baby, baby, don't be cruel. Do I look like a jockey now, baby? Slow down. Sometimes I think of using you for fuel. This little guy can't eat up a mile. Everyone we ride by can't help but smile.
That's Tommy Douglas Keenan with the song Rocking Horse. Well, still ahead here on CBC Radio 1. Well, speaking of music, the Junos is coming to Winnipeg 2027. We're the host. And coming up after the 7:30 news, Lynn Skrmita, the CEO and Film Commissioner of Manitoba Film and Music, as well as Kenny Boyce, the manager of film and special events with the City of Winnipeg, joining us right here in studio to talk about what it took to get the Junos here, but also what it's going to take to get Winnipeg ready to host the Junos next April. So stay tuned for that conversation coming up after your 7:30 news. But right now, Scott Reguer is in with a look at morning sports. Good morning.
Hey, Corey.
So it's an NBA record many thought would never be broken, and a Canadian actually broke it last night.
Gilgeous-Alexander, crowd anticipating, fires and hits. An incredible streak puts SGA into the record book.
The sound of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander scoring his 20th point in Oklahoma City's game against the Celtics. It is a mark, Corey, the Hamilton native has met or surpassed now in 127 straight contests. And it means Shai has surpassed the great Wilt Chamberlain for most games in a row. In a league that, more than most, celebrates the spectacular, this record recognizes the steadfast. And in Shai's case, a guy who sees the bigger picture.
I've had a lot of luck with great people in my corner, people to help me grow in my skills, people to help me to grow with my body, people to help me grow with understanding the game, and then just people to help me grow off the court, family, friends, my wife, my son. It takes a village to accomplish great things, and without them, I wouldn't be the player or man I am today, so it's more than just me.
Shai's focus on the collective, Corey, is more than just lip service. Consider that when Wilt Chamberlain set his record, he did it while his team won just 6 more games than they lost. Shai's team's done it while winning 79 more games, including an NBA championship. Yeah. Not bad.
Not bad at all. Well, let's talk baseball now. I feel like it's been a while since I've thought about baseball, but there's a big matchup between Canada and the U.S. tonight.
Yeah, World Baseball Classic quarterfinal, Corey, where the Canadians are significant underdogs. Odds makers say the Americans are 5 times more likely to win than not. Still, as we saw in the recent Olympic gold medal hockey games, anything can happen when the North American sporting rivals match up. The women's final in particular was supposed to be one-sided and not for the country that ended up carrying most of the play, Canada. That said, the country's hockey team still settled for silver in the end, and tonight's starting pitcher Mike Soroka was asked whether he sees this as a chance at revenge.
Obviously, we're all aware of it. We all took a lot in the clubhouses during that game, the day after especially, and it would be nice, but we're not chasing results. We're not chasing a story. We're just going to go out there and play our brand of baseball, and one game anything can happen. We say that all the time. The roster gap isn't probably as big as it's been in previous years, and we're going to go give it everything we've got and let it fall as it will.
Calgary's Mike Soroka with a chance to play Giant Slayer tonight. Given what we've seen in the World Baseball Classic so far, Canada through to the quarters for the first time ever. Italy has probably been the tournament's best team so far. Well, given that, all bets should probably be off. And remember, it is Friday the 13th as well. 7 o'clock Central Time, Canada versus the U.S.
Ooh, spooky. Well, next up, let's just finish with curling, where there's lots going on both sides of the pond right now.
There is, with Canada trying to reach the Paralympic gold medal match this morning.
What's it gonna be?
Here it comes.
What a comeback by London, Ontario's Mark Idison just a short time ago. Trailing by 2 in the final end, Idison, as you just heard, stole 3 and beat South Korea. Canada, which has won a medal in wheelchair curling at every Paralympic game so far, gets a chance to go for gold tomorrow against China. Also this weekend, we have the World Women's Curling Championship from Calgary. The last time the competition was held there, 2021, when Gimli's Carrie Anderson couldn't make it through to the medal round. Her coach each time, Reid Carruthers, says the memories are flooding back.
We spent 5 weeks in a row, same hotel with security guards at the entrance. There was tracking on our phone, so when we made our way to the arena, if we veered offline, like an alert was sent. It was full lockdown. They did an incredible job to allow us to actually compete. But when we went back after, there was some PTSD. So yeah, we're not going to stay at the host hotel just to try something a little bit different. We're excited to get going, especially with some fans there.
Canada playing Sweden in its first match tomorrow. And just a quick developing note, at the Paralympic Games, Canada with its second gold medal, Natalie Wilkie in the standing pursuit biathlon this morning.
All right. Thank you very much, Scott.
You bet.
That is Scott Reguer with your morning sports. Time now for your CBC Winnipeg News.
This is CBC News. At 7:30, we're at minus 14 with partly cloudy, windy conditions in downtown Winnipeg. We do have a slight chance of snow today. Good morning. I'm Matt Humphrey. The Manitoba Health Coalition is calling for an inquest into the deaths of 2 people who died after giving plasma. A CBC News investigation found 2 fatal adverse reactions were reported to Health Canada after giving plasma at 2 Grifols locations in Winnipeg. The for-profit collection centers pay people for their plasma. Noah Schultz is the provincial director of the Health Coalition.
I'd like more public clarity on what occurred in both of these cases, and then if we can do this within Manitoba, I think that's important too, to have that level of oversight.
The chief medical examiner would have to initiate an inquest, which is then presided over by a judge who looks at the circumstances that led to someone dying. Health Canada is still reviewing what happened and has not found a link between the plasma collection and deaths. Students at Manitoba's geographically largest school division are more likely to miss class than students elsewhere in the province. 6,400 K-8 students were recorded absent in the 2023-24 school year. Almost 2/3 of those students are in the Frontier School Division, which covers 3/4 of the landmass across northern and remote areas. Tyson McGilvery is chief superintendent.
You know, it takes time to change statistics, but also there are some barriers in some of our schools that other jurisdictions don't have to deal with.
McGilvery says barriers can include the aftermath of the COVID-19 pandemic, as well as ice roads, wildfires, and a lack of access to sports. A Winnipeg developer is suing Peguis First Nation for breach of contract, alleging it shared confidential information with the CBC. The CBC's Caitlin Gowrluck has the story.
The lawsuit centers on invoices showing how much money Peguis First Nation paid developer Andrew Marquis for consulting services. Marquis is accusing the First Nation, Chief Stan Bird, and Peguis's councillors of sharing those invoices with CBC. The lawsuit says the invoices are considered confidential under consulting agreements Marquis signed with Peguis. It also references several CBC stories about Marquis and his financial dealings with Peguis. The lawsuit says the defendants' alleged actions have affected Marquis's development activities and relationships with First Nations. Marquis filed another lawsuit against Peguis 2 weeks earlier for defamation, following comments the First Nations lawyer made to CBC about a land deal. Caitlin Gowrluck, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Dozens of drivers in Brandon got an unpleasant surprise Wednesday morning. Garth Drakely says he was just starting his day and going to his car when...
And there's 2 tow trucks in the parking lot here changing tires. And I've had people coming up to me asking me if I got hit. I have no idea what they mean. And I come and look, and there's just dozens of cars. They're all leaning over with flat tires.
Brandon police say there was a spree of tire slashing in the south end of the city. 72 slashings so far have been reported. Police are asking people share any footage they may have of the area on March 11th. The investigation is ongoing. The official opposition party says it will save Manitobans thousands on their income taxes. The Progressive Conservatives say they would almost double the basic personal exemption. That's the amount Manitobans can earn before they start paying provincial income tax. Right now, it's just under $16,000, but if elected, the Tories say they'd raise that to $30,000. Lauren Stone is the PC finance critic.
So this is direct money at the end of the day on your paycheck, on your income taxes. This is what is actually going to help Manitobans with the high cost of living crisis that they are currently feeling right now.
While the PCs say this would be a big help to low-income earners, the NDP says it would most benefit the richest. This is an early campaign or election promise. The next election isn't scheduled until October of 2027. And finally, big news in the world of Canadian music.
Because when I think of Winnipeg, I think of great music.
Hey, Winnipeg, it's so great to be home!
Let's get this party started. Let's go!
As you've been hearing, the Junos are coming to Winnipeg. The official announcement made yesterday downtown. Alan Reid is the president of the Junos.
There's so many amazing bands that have come from here. We want to make sure what we do is help showcase what makes this city great. The artists, the celebrities, the industry itself, but also just the community.
The Downtown Winnipeg Biz expects the event to bring a boost to the local economy. Things kick off at the beginning of April next year with the award show itself happening at Canada Life Centre. Still no word yet on who will MC the event. Winnipeg also hosted the awards in 2014 and 2005. And that's your CBC News from Winnipeg.
Thank you very much, Matt.
Back soon.
That's Matt Humphrey at the CBC News Desk. You're listening to Information Radio here on CBC Radio 1. And Abby Adiemi is in with a look at the weather. Hello.
Yeah, hi, Corey. I'm just trying to track sunrise for the Winnipeg end at this time. 7:47. Just in a few minutes, we should be getting the sun come through the city. Quiet one for now. No warnings across the southern regions, but up north, we still have those frigid temperatures as low as -34 as we travel towards Churchill. For the Red River Valley region, at this time, we're seeing temperatures hover around -14. Clear skies trying to creep in with those cloudy conditions we woke up to. Morning temperatures hovering around this -14 for most of the day. We expect some clouds to roll in as you get towards the mid-morning rush period. Light snow expected sometime in between, just a chance. Breezy conditions from the north, and we'll see our temperatures warm up to about -8. Though the morning wind chill, if you're making your commute and making the transition from one bus to another, you might feel it. It feels like -28 outside. For the Pembina Valley region, modern wind cloud to the Morris tracking it all the way towards Headingley this morning. We're seeing temperatures around -13s and -12s. Depending on where you are, you warm up to -8. Also, there's a slim chance of light snow in the forecast there. In the Westman region, Brandon tracking it towards Nipawin and nearby communities. We're looking at -19. Mostly cloudy there. Highs will be around -9. Morning wind chill feels like -30. For folks around the Dauphin area, we're seeing temperatures around -11 at this time. Light snow falling there. You warm up to -8 today. Gimli, good morning. For folks in the Interlake region, we're seeing temperatures around -16 at this time. You also warm up to -6 later. Wind chill around -25. The Park, Flin-Flon surrounding communities, you're around -24. At this time, we're tracking light snow in that region. You warm up to -15. Morning wind chill. There's a risk of frostbite. It feels like -31 there. And then for regions around Thompson, Gillam, Lynn Clare, Frigid. Highs will be around, we're seeing temperatures around minus 32. Wind chill close to minus 44, while for the Tudela Lake and Churchill region, you are hovering between minus 33 and minus 34 with some clear conditions and ice crystals in the air. You only warm up to minus 24, though you won't feel that heat much because of the wind chill that will be staying with you. It feels like minus 47 at this time. So it's more like cloudy conditions down south and those extreme biting cold still holding down our northern friends. Winnipeg, we're expecting a mix of sun and clouds today, currently around minus 14.
Thank you very much, Abby.
Thank you.
Sierra, what's going on with the commute?
Hi, Corey. Still looking for updates on that spun out vehicle on the eastbound Provincial Bridge in the left-hand lane there. We got a call from Jamie in the last hour about that. So I'm still looking for updates on that situation. So give me a call if you see anything on that situation. As well, quick look at the highways. A lot of the highways east and south of the city of Winnipeg are being reported as partially covered or covered by Manitoba 511, some even with reduced visibility. So you want to keep that in mind as well. And then looking out west, kind of in the Brandon area, a lot of the highways there are being reported as partially covered as well. And then to the south of Brandon in the area of Souris, Wawanesa, Glenborough, Hartney, those highways are being reported as covered, and some even being reported with partial visibility or reduced visibility, I should say. So that's what the highways are looking like, and that's just a reminder to check out Manitoba 511 if you are heading out on the highways today for up-to-date conditions and any situations going on out there. Still waiting for some calls, though, if you're seeing something out there. The number to call is 204-788-3093.
Well, up next here on CBC Radio 1.
It is my distinct honor on behalf of the Canadian Academy of Recording Arts and Sciences, the Juno Awards, and our charity music counts to officially announce that from April 1st to the 4th of 2027, the 56th Annual Juno Awards are coming back to Winnipeg.
Well, that was the CEO of the Juno Awards, Alan Reid, yesterday announcing that Winnipeg will be hosting the Canadian Music Awards show next year. The 56th Annual Juno Awards will be broadcast at the Canada Life Centre in April of 2027. And joining us in studio is Lynn Scramita, the CEO and Film Commissioner with Manitoba Film and Music. We're also joined by Kenny Boyce, the Manager of Film and Special Events with the City of Winnipeg. Good morning to you both.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
So I guess you've known for a little while the Junos were coming, but what was it like when you got that official call or email? I don't know what it was that say, yeah, you got it. It's going to be here.
Oh, it was so exciting because we've been working on this since last June in conjunction with the folks at Winnipeg Economic Development and Tourism, and so we've known we had to put a big package together. We did a little fam tour in November and brought them out here and everything, and so we didn't find out until late January, I think, and but once we did, it was absolutely amazing.
That's a tough secret to keep then.
It was.
Very.
And what is it like for you? I mean, you're the Manager of Special Events, Kenny. That's a lot of work ahead for you.
It is. We have great partners, Travel Manitoba, Tourism Winnipeg, WEDT, a great host committee that all come to the aid of the party and help make it happen. It's April, right? So we want the city to look the best that it can. Sometimes the weather can be warm and nice, sometimes not.
Yeah.
But I think at the end of the day, we have a great team, and going forward, we should be able to do some pretty amazing things.
What does it say about Manitoba's art scene that we are hosting it here, this year?
I think it's wonderful that our cultural scene is being recognized by the Junos, and it's a really great opportunity for the entire music industry to get together here and see what we have to offer. I mean, the last time it was here was 2014, and the city has changed and evolved a lot. So we're really excited to show off because, the Human Rights Museum wasn't open at that time. Kama York wasn't open at that time, right? So, we've really grown as a cultural city, and so to bring all these music people here to see that all come to life, it's going to be great.
Right. So when all these people do come here, Kenny, what kind of economic boost does that give to the city?
Oh, it's huge. To the local bars and restaurants for sure, to the venues and the small venues, the intimate venues like Juno Week. This is a whole week of celebrations and build up to it. To car sharing, people, taxis, and so forth. Everyone has a good time. Everyone tends to spend a lot of money. Everyone networks, which is fantastic. They come in early. Sometimes, like Wednesday, they start arriving. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. which is fabulous. So, when the water goes up, everyone's boat goes up. It's good for the local community, and it helps actually showcase Canada as a tourism destination, and that's what we want. The Junos might be in Toronto, but you might not come from Vancouver, and vice versa, Halifax too. To Toronto, as an example, you might. But in Winnipeg, everyone will come to Winnipeg. It's a great show.
And what do you vision for that week when people are here? Are there any things kind of bouncing around your mind, things you can do?
Because we have this great team together, and I have such an amazing co-host, as we put ideas, we're going to go to Hamilton and take a look to see what they're doing, and we're going to do it better. So I think showcasing the downtown, getting people out into the community, giving opportunities, working with the downtown biz, working with the stakeholders that are there, and see how they can amplify and enhance the experience of people coming to our city.
Okay, great. And Lynn, when all these people do come into town, what does that do for the music industry here? Like you said, there's lots of networking happening like that. How is this event going to bolster our music industry going forward? How do you hope that happens?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's just a really great opportunity for executives from across the country to see our musicians play, to be able to hang it with them in bars late at night. There's lots of chance encounters that happen as well. But the other thing is that it really brings the community together. Like we kind of saw it happen in November last year when the Grey Cup was here, right? This is the Grey Cup of the music industry. So it's not just about the industry. It's about rallying the entire city to come out and celebrate and have a really great time.
And Kenny, like you said, I know there's lots of things in terms of just making it look nice, but what other logistics go into it? There's obviously safety is a big thing.
Sure, it's a national event as an example. Last time it was here, we closed down Portage Avenue.
Okay.
That's, part of the Trans-Canada Highway, not an easy task.
Yeah. Is that the hope for this time?
I think we're going to look and rethink the downtown. We have a different campus. We have construction going on with some considerations. We have Graham Avenue right now, which is awesome. So if we look at exterior red carpet, having an understanding, of the beautification, pageantry, and safety is always a concern every time that we want to make sure that the guest experience, the visitor experience is a safe one. So we work closely with all the agencies that we have. And the Downtown Biz is a great partner. Kate Penske and all her team as an example, making sure that it looks great and it feels great. And that's our goal, that when people leave Winnipeg, that they had an amazing experience and they want to come back again.
And in terms of what's happening while it's going on here, what kind of platforms are going to be available for local artists, like in the Junos itself? Like is there going to be a particular feature on Manitoba talent, like during the Junos itself? You're hoping, or what's that look like?
I expect that's going to happen. I mean, they typically like to induct a local into the Hall of Fame.
Okay.
So I think there's a few people that would be good contenders for that. Juno Fest is part of it as well, so there's lots of opportunities for people to play. There's also some other events. There's an honoring ceremony, which is a really beautiful experience. There's a songwriters circle, and whenever they come to a host town, they do want to highlight the talent that's there. So we expect there will be lots of great opportunities for our artists.
So in the next couple of months here, at least, what's on your to-do list here, Kenny?
Well, we have, as I said, we'll go to Hamilton. We'll come back. We'll work with Women in Music, Manitoba Music, our stakeholders in the industry associations here to see what they want and try to create a really dynamic event that's very different than previous Junos. And I think, Karis has said this openly, that when they come to Winnipeg, it is one of the best experiences they have in the industry. So doing it better, doing it stronger, and making it look fabulous is probably our goal.
Do you have any say, either of you, in who gets to perform? Like, is there any acts that you're really hoping will come?
We don't really have that much of a say, but they would certainly like to hear our opinions.
Yeah, it's a $1 million question, really. Who's coming for supper, right? It's who's going to be showcasing, who will be our hosts, who will come back to Winnipeg. Right. I think that's a key statement. Who will come back to Winnipeg?
Will come back to Winnipeg. Wait, what do you mean by that? Who to come back?
That's what's to be figured out. All the great acts, Canadian acts, North American, Universal acts that have been to Winnipeg that might be celebrated during this time, that are Canadian in particular, that have been here. So it's a tease line. But
okay. Oh man. All right. Wait. So you might even know a few already who are on there. Okay. Yeah. He's given some look for the radio listeners, like he does. Maybe no. We'll get it out of you eventually. Well, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you both for joining us this morning. Really appreciate your time.
Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you. That is Lynn Skrmita, the CEO and Film Commissioner with Manitoba Film and Music, and Kenny Boyce is the Manager of Film and Special Events with the City of Winnipeg. The Junos will be held in Winnipeg next year from April 1st to 4th.
I thought that I had known the pain, but not like the one he showed me, not like the one he showed me. I wish that things had stayed the same. with the way it's going. I've played it back 100 times. I've told myself 1,000 lies, but still inside it's you I find. I don't know how to change it. That memory burned into my head. I prayed for better things instead. I really wish you weren't dead, but I'll just carry on with the show. Don't you know I'm a falling domino, breathing in hope it helps, even though I know it won't. And they say these things take time. I don't need the storm and the rain on my face. I don't wanna fade away. Burn me out till I'm gray. I'm a product of the pain and the shadows in my mind. Shadows in my mind. Shadows in my mind. Shadows in my mind. I let myself fall to the floor more than a couple times now. More than a couple times now. I've walked 100 different lives. I've heard 1,000 different cries. I've tried my best to run and hide. I don't know how to change it. I've talked with God and told him lies. I've acted on my foolish pride. I swear I'm living out of spite. I'll just carry on with the show. Don't you know I'm a falling domino, breathing in hope it helps, even though I know it won't. And they say these things take time. I don't need the storm and the rain on my face. I don't wanna fade away. Burn me out till I'm gray. I'm a product of the pain and the shadows in my mind. Shadows in my mind. Shadows in my mind. Shadows in my shadows in my mind.
That's Sebastian Gaskin with the song Shadows. And of course, as we just heard, 2027 Junos are coming to Winnipeg, and he is a Cree singer-songwriter from the Tasqueaq Cree Nation, and he is nominated for Contemporary Indigenous Artist of the Year at this year's Junos, amongst a bunch of other Manitoban artists as well.
We carry a world of information in our pockets because we want to know. It's news you can trust, delivered when you want and where you want on Canada's News app. Now with CBC Radio 1, local and live. Download the CBC News app for free.
7:50 right now. You're listening to Information Radio here on CBC Radio 1. I'm Corey Funk, sitting in for Marcy Marcusa. Well, next on the show, the head of the University of Winnipeg Student Association says students are upset after learning about the death of one of their own. A 22-year-old international student attending U of W died after giving plasma. Her death and another one in Winnipeg are being reviewed by Health Canada, and so far there has been no link found between the plasma collections and the two deaths. Alan Saji-Koshi says this case has been raising concerns about who is giving plasma for money and why.
It shows a systemic issue. Students are struggling with a lot of barriers and affordability, food insecurity, and all that. And although donating plasma is usually out of goodwill, since there is a monetary incentive to it, students are attracted to it, and especially international students when they are piled upon with bills and bills.
That was University of Winnipeg Students Association President Alan Saji-Koshi. Kate Kaler is the Executive Director of Social Planning Council of Winnipeg. Her organization works with other vulnerable and low-income people in the community. Good morning.
Good morning.
So what was your reaction when you first heard about this story?
Well, as always, it's a tragedy. A person, two people. We know we don't have details of the other person, but this is a young person who came to Canada to work hard and get a better life. And I couldn't agree more with the head of the association. We charge international students at University of Winnipeg. I think it's 3 times the usual tuition rate. So they have families back home who have struggled in order to get them as far as they possibly can, and they get here, and we know that there are students who are actually unsheltered, who are using school facilities to shower and things like that. So on top of that, you give them an opportunity to make some money, and they're going to take it and do the best that they can with it.
So how often do you actually hear about people in the community giving plasma for money?
This is, honestly, I was aware of it, but not, we won't work directly with people at the Social Planning Council. We are we do advocacy and policy work and things like that. So I don't have those direct stories. I was aware of that it was happening. I did take a look at the website of the business and was quite concerned about the idea that, that there's a real push to give as often as you possibly can in order to, to incentivize that. That's concerning. But we do know that there are people who just simply don't have enough. Here in Manitoba, just our EIA rates are less than 50% of the poverty rate. So we've created these conditions where people have to sell parts of their body, but it's not a simple thing. Most people, I think their knee-jerk reaction is, "Oh my God, no, we should ban that. It should not be allowed." But that takes away somebody's autonomy. And then we have to look at what the alternatives are then. If we say, no, you can't do this, then are we going to give them that money? Are we going to support them properly?
Mm-hmm. So the problem to you is that it's not that people are donating plasma or not are giving plasma for money in general. It's that they feel like they're in a position where they have to give plasma instead of, saying, hey, I just want a couple extra bucks. Let's go give some plasma.
There might be people out there who do that, but I would think that, that wouldn't be the first way to earn money. I think there are just too many people who are forced into it. If they wanted to give plasma, they could do it voluntarily. Unfortunately, they're in a position where they need to do anything they possibly can. In my mind, I immediately went to sex work. Most people feel that people should not pay or be paid to have sex. But then what are the alternatives? What else are we giving those individuals? What other opportunities are we affording them so that they don't actually have to sell their bodies or, in this case, parts of their bodies?
So you think that banning these types of clinics actually isn't a good approach?
No, I wouldn't say that, because the issue would be is that, again, there would be a gap created that we wouldn't be able to fill. As we know, the Canada Blood Service is saying they don't have enough plasma. We have to do it. I go to my concerns again about privatization of any sort of healthcare service, but also the idea that we don't have enough. So how come we can't just get Canada Blood Services in order to be able to compensate people? Something like that, because we've created a space for a middle person, a middle company. And again, as the review is not finished, as you've said, but during a review, we should be asking questions and making sure what we're doing is actually the best option.
So what would you like to see? Obviously, we've kind of touched on it a little bit, so that international students in particular don't feel like they have to go give blood for money or give plasma for money.
Well, how about we don't rely on international students in order to support our universities? And we actually, as a province, we actually pay those universities enough so that they can deliver the education that we all expect. So we're not triple charging university students or international students, because that's what we're doing. Their tuition supports the university. Why are they paying that much more than somebody who lives in Canada? Because they also have to pay so many other additional expenses. So in that situation, and specifically, I would say let's look at that situation.
Well, Kate, we'll leave it there. Thank you so much for your time this morning. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
That is Kate Kaler. She is Executive Director of the Social Planning Council of Winnipeg. 7:56 right now. Let's check in with news headlines with Matt Humphrey.
Good morning. Statistics Canada says employment came in sharply lower than expected in February, as a surprise drop of 84,000 jobs pushed the unemployment rate up 2 ticks to 6.7%. Steep job losses were seen among young workers aged 15 to 24 and among men aged 25 to 54. Manitoba itself lost 4,000 jobs. I'll have more local news after World Report.
Thank you very much, Matt.
Baxter.
That is Matt Humphrey at the CBC News Desk. Minus 14 right now in Winnipeg. We are heading for a high today of -8. There's about a 30% chance or so of light snow. It's going to be very similar actually for the weekend. -9 is what we're heading for a high on Saturday, and -14 on Sunday. And also, if you're looking for your commute right now, wondering what is going on, things are pretty quiet overall. But if you do see something, you can give us a call on the CBC commuter line. That number 204-788-3093. Still ahead here on Information Radio. Are you getting enough sleep? And we'll still to come. We're going to hear how a lack of sleep can affect you physically and mentally. So we are going to talk about that coming up here on the show. And also just a reminder to folks that we are going to be in Brandon later on April 1st and 2nd. No, it's not an April Fool's joke. We will be in Brandon. So if you are in Brandon, you've got a story to tell, we want to hear from you. We want you to email us, radio893@cbc.ca. We're going to be in town for 2 shows. So if you even know of maybe a place we could broadcast from, we've broadcast from front porches to restaurants to who knows. The sky is the limit. So if you think, hey, maybe the show could come where I am at, you can email us, radio893@cbc.ca. Share your stories and share your thoughts for a potential place where we could broadcast in Brandon. Looking forward to coming out to the Wheat City in April. This is Information Radio here on CBC Radio 1. I'm Corey Funk, in for Marcy Marcusa every Friday now for the next few months. We'll see you after World Report. Stay tuned.
On cue. I'm Garvey Bailey, in for Tom Power. Ian Tuasson's debut film, Undertone, follows a podcaster who starts receiving eerie audio files that bring paranormal activity into her life.
You shouldn't have called out to her. It's what she wants.
He'll be here to talk about the real events behind the story, shooting in his family home, and the bidding war that landed it at A24.
Q, this morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland, and on CBC Listen, or wherever you get your podcasts. The CBC News is next. Coming up in half an hour, it's The Current.
I'm Dave Seglins. Nobody likes airplane food, right? Or the middle seat? Or turbulence? Well, it turns out that's not quite true. We'll hear from 3 people on what it's like to love what everyone else hates about travel. That's coming up on The Current.
This is World Report. Good morning, I'm John Northcott. We begin in Tehran, where thousands of people were out on the streets taking part in an annual pro-regime rally. People chant, "God is great," as smoke billows out of buildings and strikes continue all around. The regime is defiant as the war is about to enter its 3rd week. Meanwhile, at the Pentagon, Donald Trump's Secretary of War says the strikes have decimated Iran's capabilities. Here's Pete Hegseth.
With every passing hour, we know, and we know they know, that the military capabilities of their evil regime are crumbling. They can barely communicate, let alone coordinate. They're confused, and we know it. Our response? We will keep pressing. We will keep pushing, keep advancing. No quarter, no mercy.
With more on the latest developments, we go to the CBC's chief correspondent, Adrian Arsenault, in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. And Adrian, you have developments on that U.S. refueling plane that crashed in Iraq.
We do indeed. We have heard from U.S. Central Command that 4 of the 6 crew members on board that plane, it was a refueling jet, are now confirmed deceased. We're still waiting for word on the other 2. A few details of what happened here. The Americans are saying there were 2 planes in the air. The one that went down in Iraq was this refueling jet. The other plane landed safely in another country. The pictures of its tail show it partially sliced. What happened is not entirely clear, but the Americans insist it was neither friendly nor hostile fire, which suggests it just could have been a mid-air collision while refueling or trying to refuel. So the concern right now is the fate of those other 2 service members.
Oh, Adrian, this as tanker traffic is halted through the Strait of Hormuz, with oil continuing to be an urgent part of the conversation.
It really is an urgent part of the conversation. Over the last few days, we've looked at efforts to mitigate the damage being caused by that Iranian stranglehold on the Strait of Hormuz. You saw G7 countries recommend the biggest release of emergency reserves in history. Prices still went up. The U.S. waived sanctions on the sale of Russian oil for a month. Prices still went up about 10% this week so far. Now there's this new effort from the U.S. It's considering waiving a 100-year-old rule called the Jones Act, which effectively insists that only American ships, crewed, built, flagged, work at American ports. They may lift that rule just to keep essentials flowing in the United States, but even though that proposal's out there, the price pressure isn't lessening at all. We keep hearing that all of these solutions are Band-Aid solutions, unlikely to fix what worries the markets and everyone else. Keep an eye on what Saudi Arabia is doing, though. It's been afraid of this precise scenario for decades, so it built a pipeline from the Persian Gulf to the Red Sea, so east to west, away from the Strait of Hormuz to another shipping route. So it's now trying to move much of its oil and tankers west to that new, safer route. That could stabilize supply and price, but not quickly.
CBC News Chief Correspondent Adrian Arsenault in Riyadh. Thanks, Adrian.
Thank you.
Meanwhile, Iran continues its attacks on and around the Persian Gulf, now targeting cities and financial districts in the region. Megan Williams has more from Dubai.
2 foreign nationals were killed and several others injured after a drone crashed into an industrial area in Sohar, Oman, while a second drone came down nearby in an open area without causing injuries. Here in Dubai, debris struck the facade of a skyscraper in Dubai International Financial Center after air defenses intercepted an Iranian drone about 60 stories up early this morning, followed by warnings of missile attacks after. Banks and financial firms in Dubai and Abu Dhabi have sent staff home after Iran warned it would target economic interests linked to the U.S. and Israel, with Bloomberg News Agency telling staff they can leave the region. Experts say the UAE is especially in Iran's line of fire, likely due to close security ties with the United States, its partnership with Israel, and mounting financial pressure on Iranian money flows through the Emirates. Across the Gulf, Bahrain, Kuwait, Oman, Saudi Arabia, and Qatar have all reported missile or drone attacks on energy infrastructure, U.S. bases, and diplomatic sites. After hitting 6 vessels in the past 2 days in the Strait of Hormuz, Iran says ships can still pass through if they coordinate with its navy, effectively claiming control of the world's most critical oil corridor. Megan Williams, CBC News, Dubai.
Statistics Canada is reporting the economy shed 84,000 jobs in February. Now, it's a sharp contrast to the 10,000 gain economists had expected. That loss has pushed the unemployment rate up slightly to 6.7%. This is the final look at the job market before the Bank of Canada makes its next interest rate decision on Wednesday. CBC's senior business correspondent Peter Armstrong has the details.
This is a crushing blow to the idea that Canada's jobs market had stabilized after the summer. We now lost 84,000 jobs in 1 month, the biggest single-month drop in 4 years, plus another 25,000 jobs lost in January. To make matters worse, these losses are concentrated in full-time, private sector work. It spreads out across goods and services industry. It stretches out right across the country and drags the headline rate of employment all the way up to 6.7%. And, you know, I think a lot of experts had looked at the numbers over the last year or so and mused whether maybe, just maybe, Canada was through the worst of the trade war storm. The labor market looked like it had started to find its footing in the fall. This report pushes back against that narrative and pushes back pretty hard. Peter Armstrong, CBC News, Toronto.
Prime Minister Mark Carney unveils a massive $35 billion package for Canada's Northern Territories. The investment designed to strengthen the country's military presence in the Arctic and to build critical infrastructure. As the CBC's David Thurton reports, the plan includes a mix of new defense spending and a nation-building road and port project.
We're taking up the Mackenzie Valley Highway at our major projects office. This summer, we will start construction.
That project Prime Minister Mark Carney is talking about would connect remote parts of the Northwest Territories, replacing ice roads with gravel roads. The Grays Bay Port and Road is also going to the Major Projects Office. It would connect a deep water Arctic port in Nunavut to the rest of Canada.
It's a weird term, but it's dual use because it's relevant both for the military personnel who come, but also for the community.
But the vast majority of the money being announced, $32 billion, will go to direct military investments, upgrading forward operating locations, staging bases for fighter jets in Happy Valley, Goose Bay, Iqaluit, Yellowknife, and Inuvik. David Thurton, CBC News, Ottawa.
Some officials in the north, meanwhile, are expressing frustration. They say Ottawa made the plans for their region without consulting or even informing them. They include White House Mayor Kirk Cameron.
They just don't spend the kind of time that I think they should be talking to us in advance to have a dialogue that will get us to a place, at a minimum, that we understand where they want to go.
White House Mayor Kirk Cameron. And finally, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre is heading to the U.S. Let's bring in Janice McGregor from our Parliamentary Bureau. Janice, Poilievre was criticized during the election for not focusing enough on the Canada-U.S. relationship. Is this meant to make up for lost time now?
Well, that's really the key question on this trip, John. He's certainly going to try. While there are a few people in his caucus who maintain contacts in Washington, Poilievre's political career, all his events, his social media as leader, have all been about domestic, usually pocketbook issues. But lately, he has been trying to build a bridge between that economic focus and what's happening beyond Canada's border. One of his MPs, Jamil Javani, called on his personal friendship with Vice President J.D. Vance to get FaceTime at the White House last month. The Conservative leader may be seeking to steer clear of any comparisons with that kind of access by heading to other strategic places on this trip. In a video post on his social media channels, Poilievre said he's leaving the trade negotiations to the federal government. He's not freelancing or going rogue on that here. Prime Minister Mark Carney's aware of his plans for the next few days and, we're told, supportive.
As you say, Janice, Poilievre not going to Washington, going elsewhere. So what issues is he wanting to focus on?
Southwestern Ontario swing seats, where a lot of jobs depend on automotive manufacturing, always a Conservative focus. His stops in Michigan could be seen as advocating for the businesses that support those voters. And he's just written another letter to Carney, calling on the Liberal government to reconsider his proposal to create a strategic oil reserve in the wake of the war in the Persian Gulf. Now, if you want to boost policies for the oil patch, well, Texas is the place to do it.
Janice McGregor in Ottawa. Thanks, Janice.
You're welcome.
And that is the latest national and international news from World Report. I'm John Northcott. This is CBC News.
Good morning, Manitoba. You're listening to Information Radio here on CBC Radio 1, 89.3 FM, 990 AM, and everywhere on the CBC Manitoba YouTube page. I'm Corey Funk, sitting in this Friday and every Friday for the next few months for Marcy Marcusa. And coming up this hour on the show, this half hour on the show, are you getting enough sleep? Still to come, we're going to hear how a lack of sleep can affect you physically and mentally, especially after that change in daylight saving. So we're going to hear from an expert. We also spoke to Winnipeggers about how they've been sleeping lately. So we're going to hear from them as well. Minus 14 right now here in Winnipeg, heading for a high today of minus 8. Up north, much, much colder, minus 31 in Thompson right now, heading for a still pretty chilly but sunny high today of minus 17. 8:11 right now. Let's check in with Matt Humphrey with a look at news headlines.
Good morning. A Manitoba health advocacy group is calling for a provincial inquest into the deaths of 2 people after they made donations at paid plasma collection centers in Winnipeg. We're expecting the Manitoba Health Coalition to hold a press conference later this morning at 9:30, so just over an hour. The organization says it wants more than just a Health Canada investigation into what happened. We'll hear the latest from them at the bottom of the hour. And as you've been hearing, many of Canada's brightest music stars will descend on Winnipeg for the Juno Awards next year. The announcement was made last night downtown. It'll be the first time Winnipeg has hosted the Junos since 2014. We'll hear more about that. Are you getting enough sleep, Corey?
Nope, not at all. I've got a 1.5-year-old right now
That's
who
right, of
kept us up the last couple nights. And we're not totally sure why, but yeah. So on top of the daylight saving, I think it kind of messed up both of our kids' sleep schedules, and it's also in turn messed up ours. So.
And of course, also your job.
Yes, and then of course, then I wake up at 4 a.m. after a night of snuggling a crying baby, and then off to work. So yeah, I'm here though. I'm here in body, also mostly in spirit, until right after the show where I crash.
Yeah, and you do it so well.
Thank you very much, Matt.
Back soon.
That is Matt Humphrey at the CBC News Desk. Our well-rested colleague, though, Abby Adiemi, is in.
Well, Corey, I think my way of cheating sleep is just to have enough naps. I kind of have naps in between, maybe after work, just those cat naps here and there.
Nap is
45
life.
minutes here. I don't know if 2 hours is classified as a nap.
Yeah, I think you're in full on. I think that's called a small sleep.
So I get cat naps and a mini sleep.
There you go. Exactly. What's going on in the weather?
Well, the sun is out across most of the regions. We have clear skies, but it's still chilly outside across the province. No active weather warnings as the south will be seeing some sunshine to start. Then we see that transition to a mix of sun and clouds, while the northern part of the province still being gripped by this freezing wind chills, with the wind chill values close to minus 47 in some areas. For the Red River Valley at this time, the Forks we're tracking minus 14. The airport is tracking minus 15. We do have sunny conditions in the city at this time. Temperature's going to hover around this minus 14, minus 15 for most of the morning. We're expecting some clouds to roll in sometime later in the morning, and we'll see a slim chance of light snow come our way. We warm up to minus 8 later in the day, though the wind chill, if you're making the transition from one bus to another, you will feel it. It feels like a brisk minus 25 outside. Up north, frigid conditions. We're looking at minus 29 to minus 35, with wind chills close to minus 47 as you get towards the Churchill region. But currently, just waking up to those mix of cold conditions and a mix of sun and clouds across the province. Winnipeg, we're hovering around minus 15 at this time.
Thank you very much, Abby.
Thank you.
Sierra, what's going on with the commute?
It's been pretty quiet on this Friday morning here, Corey. Not too much going on out there on the commuter line. Haven't received many calls, so that makes me think that things are moving smoothly out there on your morning commute. I understand the highways around the city are being reported as partially covered and some with reduced visibility as well. So you want to keep that in mind if you are heading out on the highways this morning, and make sure to check Manitoba 511 as well, just for updates on current conditions in any situations that are happening out there. We still have a little time left in the show, though, so if there's something that is popping up on your commute that you want to let me know about, the number to call is 204-788-3093.
Oh, well, today is World Sleep Day, so that begs the question, how well did you sleep last night? That's a question CBC's Jim Agapito asked Winnipeggers.
My name is Ariane Liu.
How much sleep do you get a night?
I'd say 4 to 6 hours, give or take. Yeah.
Now, do you think that's enough sleep? Why or why not?
No, no, I don't think so. I'm an athlete, and I definitely need more than that. So.
What kind of sport do you do?
Taekwondo. My name's Lu Zhang. Normally 5 to 6 hours. First of all, I have 2 kids, so they will affect my sleep. And also, nowadays, most of the people have pressure from work. And then also, mattress is important. They're gonna wake up several times during the night. So then it will just affect their sleep cycle, right?
Hi, my name is Bert Krawchuk. Well, when I don't have a volunteer day, it's 8 to 10 hours.
What do you think, Bert, contributes to your good sleep?
Well, basically I'm retired, so I don't have any other things to do during the day outside of maybe leisure activities.
My name is Neil Randall. Max for me about 6 hours. Well, I think it meets probably your minimum requirement.
My name's Chris Goodwin. Not always, no. I would say on average I get about 6. I think my 6 hours of sleep mostly comes to being parent of a young child and a railroad worker. I would like to get more sleep.
Since that you're not getting enough sleep, what do you think are the factors that contribute to that?
Nutrition, I guess, because we don't have much actual fresh, veggies and whatnot at this time of the year. So you don't have proper nutrition, proper sleep, and you're not in that good headspace because there's not much sun to absorb at this time of the year. So
It's not the highest quality of sleep. I do wake up in the middle of the night sometimes for a variety of reasons, but mainly it's coming from the older mattress I used to have. Pressure, right? You feel pressure. I'm a side sleeper primarily. So when I sleep on my side, all my weight gets distributed on my shoulder and my hip, and that's where I feel some numbness possibly or even pain.
I'm curious, how much sleep do you actually want to get a night then? What would be your ideal?
7 to 8 hours, if I can. Yeah.
When is the last time that you got that?
Before I have kids.
I would like at least 7 to 8 hours. That would be optimal.
But I think 8 hours is probably sufficient. I would say.
I'm just wondering, with your wisdom, if you have any, what do you think people can do to get better sleep?
What I found is that if you wash your face at night with cold water and you splash cold water on your forehead and you fall asleep and you fall into a deep sleep.
And that's what's been working for you?
That works for me.
With my kids, cold water on the forehead. I'm sure that would go over really, really well. That was CBC's Jim Agapito speaking to Winnipeggers about sleep. But what can happen if you're not getting enough sleep? Dr. Michael Mack is the clinical vice president of the Canadian Sleep Society. We reached him in Toronto. Good morning.
Morning, Corey.
So you were listening there. Most of those Winnipeggers said they're getting about 6 hours of sleep. I'm guessing, but you're probably going to say that's not enough, is it?
That's not enough, unfortunately. For adults, what's recommended is getting 7 to 9 hours of sleep. If you're a person that's 65 and above, with aging, we do lose our ability to stay asleep. So for older adults, we say 7 to 8 hours. So it sounds like most of the folks that you spoke with didn't get the recommended amount.
Are there any stats or numbers on how many Canadians are getting enough sleep? Do we know that?
Yeah, for folks who are 18 to 64, 1 in 5 Canadians don't get enough sleep. And the gap widens as you look at people who are older.
Really? And why is that? Have you looked into that?
Well, with the onset of industrialization and artificial lighting, people have been expected to, do more work and have more, daily obligations, whether it's socially, familially, or at school or at work. And, the honest truth is that I think the society hasn't really placed enough emphasis on, getting enough sleep, as a pillar of health.
And how does it affect our health when we don't get enough sleep?
Let's say you're a person that has trouble falling asleep and staying asleep, and now your sleep duration is curtailed. You're sleeping, let's say fewer than 6 hours a night. You stand a chance of having, developing, health conditions, things like obesity, high blood pressure, even heart attack. And, moreover, we know that people with bad sleep, they tend to develop a depression, anxiety, and sometimes even alcohol abuse.
Is there a difference when it comes to gender? Are men or women better at sleeping or the other way around?
Women are disproportionately affected by insomnia. So, a clinical condition where a person has problems falling asleep and staying asleep, leading to daytime dysfunction. So ladies, unfortunately, suffer from more of that.
And when it comes to, over the long term, so you get one bad sleep now and then, obviously everyone's had those, but how does that long-term impact? You said higher obesity, but if you go a year with just bad sleep, what happens to you?
Well, if you're having bad sleep consistently, let's say over the course of months, and like you mentioned, to a year, you can stand to have an increased risk of heart attack from not getting enough sleep. You're going to have a greater risk of high blood pressure, and these are terrible outcomes that we don't want anyone to have.
What about yourself as someone who, I guess, lives and breathes sleep a little bit? Do you have any personal strategies yourself that makes you sleep better?
Well, what I would say is that try to get up every day at the same time. Having a consistent wake time means that you're exposing yourself to light around the same time every day, which stabilizes your internal body clock. Try to get, lots of light exposure, upon awakening. and then go to bed only when you're feeling sleepy. So your bedtime might not be the same. It'll depend on what you did during the day. If you had a more strenuous day, you went to the gym, you had to study for an exam, you might feel sleepy earlier.
What about naps? We talk about napping a lot in our particular shift right now because we start at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, and then we all have to go home and nap. Well, but what is the ideal length of nap for someone who naps during the day?
Yeah, like if you have to nap, then you want to keep it short and sweet. And when I say short and sweet, that means about something like 20 minutes to less than half an hour. And by doing so, you don't run the risk of waking up from deep sleep when your brain waves are at their slowest. If you wake up from deep sleep, then you'll feel groggy, you might feel drunk, you might not even know where you are, you'll be disoriented. So keeping them short and sweet, 20 minutes to 30 minutes. That's the best way to go.
Had a couple of those naps in my day. What can we do? What about during the day? What can we do during the day that will help us actually sleep better during the night? Any advice for that?
Yeah, like I would avoid, everyone loves the coffee. I love my coffee, but I would try to keep like a 6 hour gap between your last coffee and caffeine intake and your bedtime. You don't want to have a big meal before your bedtime, so keep that last big meal at least 3 hours away from your bedtime. Exercise is good for sleep and health, but don't do it too close to your bedtime either.
And what about a glass of wine? When you might have it like with supper or something like that. How does alcohol impact that? And at what point is it so much that you sleep poorly, or is any amount of alcohol bad for your sleep?
The way that we understand alcohol intake and how it affects health is that there is no amount that's healthy. But at the same time, we know that folks do enjoy a glass of wine with their meals. If you do so, just keep it away from your bedtime at least 3 hours.
Well, 3 hours. Okay, that's good to know. Well, Dr. Michael Mack, thanks for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Dr. Michael Mack is the clinical vice president of the Canadian Sleep Society.
On This is Manitoba, we celebrate who we are, and we lean into the challenges here that can make this place even better. I'm Marcy Marcusa, host of This is Manitoba. On the podcast, we tackle one topic in a new episode every Friday. It's always about us, the news, and the people here. Get into some local listening. Find and follow This is Manitoba wherever you get your podcasts.
Well, next up here on the show, we're going to keep talking about health, but this time we're talking about cancer. Age is becoming less of a factor in determining the risk of getting colorectal cancer. That's why the Canadian Cancer Society wants to lower the age when we start screening for colorectal cancer from 50 to 45. Brandon Purcell is an advocacy manager of prevention and early detection at the Canadian Cancer Society, and I spoke with him earlier today.
Good morning.
So why do you want to lower colorectal cancer screening to 45 years right now, even in individuals at average risk?
Absolutely. So what we've been seeing over the past number of years is a steady but dramatic increase in the rates of colorectal cancer in that younger age group, to the point where folks who are in that 45 to 50 year age range are now 2 to 2.5 times more likely to be diagnosed with colorectal cancer than previous generations.
And why are we seeing more cases in people under 50?
Unfortunately, there's no one smoking gun we can point to as to why it's happening. We know that there's a variety of factors in play. Certainly, genetics plays part of it. If you have a family history, that's one thing. But we also know that 45% of colorectal cancer cases can be prevented through certain healthy lifestyle habits by refraining from smoking, keeping alcohol intake down, maintaining a healthy diet, and exercise are all small things that can make a real difference in terms of your individual risk.
Now, of course, lowering the screening age doesn't prevent cancer, but it does catch it earlier. What could that mean for outcomes if we're catching colorectal cancer earlier in younger folks?
Exactly. It makes all the difference in the world. We know that when these cancers are caught at the early stages, the chances of successful treatment and survival are far, far more likely. So at those early stages or precancer stages, you're at about a 90% chance of survival, whereas when it's caught later, unfortunately, that number drops dramatically to 15%. And we know that in 2025, there were 2,000 Canadians who were diagnosed with colorectal cancer, and that's without having access to this comprehensive screening, which means we know there's a lot of folks out there who do have colorectal cancer and just don't know about it, and they can't.
And what type of screening tests are you advocating for in this lowered age group?
That's a great question. What we're talking about here is called a FIT test. Stands for fecal immunochemical test. It's pretty simple. It's something that can actually be mailed to your house in a small kit. What you do is you take a stick swab out of a vial and you take a poop sample. You put that back in the vial and put it in the lab safe bag and send it in the mail back to the lab. And it's as simple as that. Now, that doesn't necessarily test for whether or not you have colorectal cancer. It sort of looks for the early warning signs. So if there's something to worry about, your GP will get in touch with you, and then you'll be having a conversation about a colonoscopy.
So then what's the challenges of getting screening, approved for this age group of people, between 45 and 50?
Well, for us, it's really just talking about the reality that we're seeing right now and responding to it. We've been seeing these reports recently of these younger populations being diagnosed more and more frequently. Certainly, Canada's not alone here. We've seen this in other countries that have taken preemptive action, like Australia, Japan, and the United States actually have all made that move down to 45. And we think it's time that Canada does too. And to the province's credit, where we've been engaged with them so far, they've been looking at the issue with an open mind.
And what are the the arguments that provinces are giving for why they can't lower it? Is it mostly resources? Because we've gone through something similar here in Manitoba with lowering the breast cancer screening age. It has been lowered recently, but for a while it was always an issue of resources.
That's right, and it can be an issue. One of the positives of colorectal cancer testing, like I mentioned, what we were talking about is the testing can be done at home. You don't necessarily require a lot of interaction with or an appointment at a clinic to do it, as opposed to a mammogram. But certainly capacity and making sure that's available is critical, and it's part of this conversation that we have with provinces and territories. So I know that a number of provinces were taking that gradual approach to moving down the breast cancer screening age. Certainly that's something that we welcome for colorectal cancer if that's what they need in order to build up the capacity. But what's most important is being able to provide this access for people so that they can take care of their own health.
And why not advocate for colonoscopies for people between 45 and 50 for lowering that? Is that a resource issue as well? Why just the screening and not the full-on colonoscopy?
Well, certainly that would be a much higher hill to climb in terms of building that capacity. But the simple thing is that not everyone needs it. For looking for those early warning signs, the FIT test is very, very reliable in terms of finding those. And if in the majority of cases where nothing is wrong, you're all set. You don't have to worry about booking a colonoscopy and going in for an appointment. But if you do find something worrisome on that test, you then will have access to go to that secondary testing process.
And for folks at home, what are the signs of colorectal cancer to look out for? In the meantime.
For sure. For sure. So I'm not a physician, but what I can say that is that you'd be looking at a lot of intestinal pain, certainly blood in the stool or rectal bleeding. There's a lot more information that folks can find at cancer.ca, and I'll just say that if folks are motivated by this, we could certainly use all the help we could get. I'd encourage folks to reach out to their MLAs to let them know that this is something that's important to them.
Brandon, thanks for your time this morning. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
That was Brandon Purcell, an advocacy manager of prevention and early detection at the Canadian Cancer Society. I spoke with him earlier today. Time now for your CBC Winnipeg News.
This is CBC News. At 8:30, we're at minus 14 with mostly clear, windy conditions in downtown Winnipeg. We have a slight chance of snow today. Good morning. I'm Matt Humphrey. The Manitoba Health Coalition is calling for an inquest into the deaths of 2 people who died after giving plasma. A CBC News investigation found 2 fatal adverse reactions were reported to Health Canada after giving plasma at 2 Grifols locations in Winnipeg. The for-profit collection centers pay people for their plasma. Noah Schultz is the provincial director of the Health Coalition.
We would like to see both independent, or that is judicial, inquests called by the chief medical examiner. Let's have a more fulsome investigation of how these deaths happened.
After the chief medical examiner initiates an inquest, it would then be presided over by a judge who looks at the circumstances that led to someone dying. Health Canada is still reviewing what happened and has not found a link between the plasma collection and deaths. New numbers suggest students in Manitoba's geographically largest school division are frequently missing class. 6,400 K-8 students were recorded absent in the 2023-24 school year. Almost 2/3 of those students are with the Frontier School Division, a massive division covering rural and remote areas. Tyson McGilvery is the chief superintendent.
I would say we're still struggling with attendance, and I think that can be said. There's no one fix for improving attendance. We have put a number of strategies, and those strategies can look different from one school to the other.
McGilvery says the province's nutrition program is helping attendance this year, but he says there aren't enough resources, and the need is, quote, growing exponentially every day. This just in from Statistics Canada, which says employment came in sharply lower than expected in February. A surprise drop of 84,000 jobs pushed the unemployment rate up 2 ticks to 6.7% nationwide. Steep job losses were seen among young workers aged 15 to 24 and among men aged 25 to 54. Manitoba itself lost 4,000 jobs. This week saw dozens of people in the south end of Brandon get their tires slashed. Brandon police say the investigation is still ongoing. Garth Drakely spent Wednesday morning helping a friend change her tire.
You're just trying to get your kids to school and then go to work, and I was a lucky person. I didn't get hit with that, but I had to help a friend of mine before she could even do anything in the morning.
Drakely says when he came out of his house, he was greeted by tow trucks and a line of cars with slashed tires. That happened on Wednesday. Police say so far 72 tire slashings have been reported. No arrests have been made. Investigators are asking anyone who may have footage of the area from March 11th to please share it. Manitoba's progressive conservatives are pitching the idea of almost doubling the basic personal exemption. That's the amount Manitobans can earn before they start paying provincial income tax. Right now, it's just under $16,000. If elected next year, the Tories say they'd raise that to $30,000. PC finance critic Lauren Stone says a family earning $60,000, for example, would save around $3,000 a year.
We want Manitobans, when they have that extra $3,000 at the end of the year, or that single one-income mom or parent getting that extra $1,500 at the end of the year. We want them to be able to buy that healthy, wholesome food at the grocery store rather than go to a food bank.
The New Democrats say the highest earners in the province would benefit the most from the change, but the PCs say it would be a big help to low-income earners. The next provincial election is scheduled for fall of next year. And finally, some big news for Manitoba music lovers.
Because when I think of Winnipeg, I think of great music.
Hey, Winnipeg, it's so great to be home!
Let's get this party started. Let's go.
Yes, as you've been hearing, the Junos will be held in Winnipeg next year. The official announcement came down last night at an event downtown. Kate Fensky is the CEO of the Downtown Winnipeg Biz.
It really is about celebrating our city, bringing community together, and it's going to be so positive. When we look at the impact on businesses, we know people are going out for entertainment, for connecting with each other, but just celebrating arts and culture, and that's where all of it comes together in downtown Winnipeg.
Juno festivities happen the first week of April next year, with the big show happening at Canada Life Centre. And if you're wondering who will be emceeing the event, that has not yet been announced. And that's your CBC News from Winnipeg.
Thank you very much, Matt.
Thanks for the morning, Corey.
Thank you. Have a good weekend. That is Matt Humphrey at our CBC News desk. Let's take one last quick look at the commute with Sierra Sanders.
Good morning. It's been quite quiet today on the commuter line. Not too much going on out there. So it sounds like things were moving smoothly on your morning commute today. A quick look at the highways. A lot of the highways east and south of Winnipeg are being reported as partly covered, some even with reduced visibility. So you want to keep that in mind. And as you head out west, those highways the conditions do start to get a little worse out there, being reported as partly covered around Brandon and even south of Brandon in the Souris-Wawanesa area as covered and with reduced visibility. So Manitoba 511 is the place to look if you are getting out on the highways this morning.
Thank you very much, Sierra.
Thank you.
And Abby, what's going on with the weather?
Across the regions, the skies are mainly clear, but conditions remain bitterly cold with dangerous wind chills still holding things down in the northern regions. The south starts in between -12 and -20, and we'll see highs near -8, while up north, frigid between -24 and -35, and it feels like -47 up there. Winnipeg, we are at -15 at this time. Some clouds roll in later. We warm up to -8.
Thank you very much, Abby.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in. Thanks to everyone who helped put together the show. Abby, Sierra, Chidi Akuma, May McKillop, Marshall Hodgins, Jenica Sewell, Dylan Longhurst, Sophia Peralta Baron, and Christopher Garrow, and Jim Agapito, as well as Leif Larson and Nelly Gonzalez. And thanks to everyone else. I'm Corey Funk in for Marcy Marcusa. The Current is next.